Chapter 3747. Under the interference of the ripples, the scene inside the mirage was distorted and could not be seen clearly. Tian looked back at Ning Shu and said, "I'm going in." Ning Shu waved his hand. "Go in. Study hard and improve every day." The corners of Tian's mouth twitched as he turned around and went inside. Ning Shu saw that the mirage had deviated greatly from its original direction. Luckily, she stood still and did not move. After many twists and turns, she returned to the system space. The system space, which used to be very lively, was now cold and empty. Ning Shu cleaned up the messy system space. Under the sofa, there were either fruit peels or bags. Under the cushions on the sofa, there were also nut shells and some hidden nuts. There was also some hair on the sofa. Obviously, the little mouse had shed its hair. It was dirty and messy. What a tramp. Ning Shu cleaned up the system space and changed the sofa. The sofa was stained with some unknown fruit juice, causing the color of the sofa to be mottled. She threw away the old sofa and bought a new one. After cleaning, the dirty and stuffed system space became bright and clean again. Although it was small, it was exquisite. Ning Shu lay on the brand new sofa and sighed in satisfaction. The only thing that was a little worrying was that her soul had become much weaker. Dan Qing's voice was very weak. It was almost inaudible. "You need to deal with the fragments and star stones." Ning Shu was not annoyed. He asked, "Didn't you just deal with them?" Moreover, she would not get a single cent for dealing with these things now. In the past, she would get a little reward. Now, there was no reward at all. Dan Qing explained, "Now, the organization needs to deal with the planes that have aged or are about to be destroyed in advance to prevent them from suddenly collapsing. The situation is more serious." Ning Shu nodded. No wonder the silver-haired man wanted to deal with these things for free. The problem of the planes aging and suddenly collapsing would gradually become more and more problems. They needed more manpower, but they might not be able to keep up with the money. Ning Shu did not dare to say that when he picked up the fragments, he was worth 100 people, but he was worth at least 10 people. The silver-haired man had no reason to reject him. He was truly a qualified profiteer who would never forget to maximize his profits at any time. Since it was a deal, Ning Shu really couldn't refuse. He came to the place where the plane had shattered. There were many fragments. Clearly, many planes had been dealt with this time. Ning Shu stretched out his vines and began to pick up the debris. Usually, Tian would be by his side and talk to him occasionally. Now that he was alone, he was not used to it. Obviously, he had to get used to this kind of coldness. Ning Shu roughly knew what the organization was going to do next. Although they were not going to wipe out all the planes, they were going to slowly deal with some of them. It was not appropriate to say that they were removing rotten flesh. These planes were originally considered normal flesh and blood. They needed to obtain power and nourish from the Sea of Laws, and now that they had dealt with some, they could save a portion of the Sea of Laws' power. He didn't know if new planes were still being born, but it was clear that there would be fewer and fewer planes. Even if they were not cleaned up, they would perish together with the Law Sea in the end. Everyone would be finished together. He wondered what Tian and Little Mouse were doing. Did they enter the cub nursery? He couldn't stop worrying. The silver-haired man flipped through the book, and when he turned the pages, there was a slight sound. The grand-uncle, who was sleeping on the long stone, moved his eyelashes slightly. He opened his eyes and sat up, one leg bent, his arm resting on his knee, and the other hand rubbing his forehead. After rubbing for a while, his hand touched the bloodstain on his cheek, and he frowned. The silver-haired man closed the book. This time, he woke up longer than last time. "You turned him into a monster. Give him a clean break and let him go." The grand-uncle didn't speak. Instead, he lay down with his hands behind his head. The silver-haired man sighed. "Up to you. Actually, if you do this and suffer, he won't be grateful to you." The grand-uncle said coldly, "It doesn't matter." The silver-haired man said, "The pollution in the Law Sea is too serious. Your body is affected, and so is he. However, he can use this kind of thing. Sooner or later, he won't be able to suppress it." The Law Sea was connected to the grand-uncle. He could obtain endless power from the Law Sea, but if there was any problem with the Law Sea, he would have to bear it. He could only accept the good and get rid of the bad. There was no such good thing in the world. The silver-haired man said, "If you can't suppress it, you might as well let him out." The grand uncle shook his head. "So, why did you leave a strand of his consciousness behind? Why did you let him live and not let him see the light of day? Why did you suppress him in your body?" The silver-haired man wouldn't say anything important to the grand uncle. If it were Ning Shu, he would directly use the word sick to describe the grand uncle. The silver-haired man was silent for a while before saying, "Do you want to use him as a carrier of pollution? That's a good idea." The decline of the Law C would inevitably affect the grand uncle, and it would be a direct impact. The grand uncle said, "I'll sleep for a while." The silver-haired man got up from the stone stool and disappeared from the stone bed without saying a word. When Fation entered the Holy Land, he thought that the stone bricks and tiles he saw outside were not real and were just a mirage. When he walked in to take a look, it turned out that what he saw outside was real. The little mouse climbed onto Fation's shoulder and felt the surging power. It exclaimed, "This is the Holy Land. I've come to the Holy Land." Fation really couldn't see what was worth yearning for in this place. It was like a primitive tribe. Although these stones and wood contained powerful power, so what? Fation stuffed the little mouse into his arms. Otherwise, it would stay on his shoulder. Next, he had to go to the cub house. Where was the cub house? Fation planned to find someone to ask. In this place, all the creatures were in human form. It was probably because the human form was smaller. If they were in their original form, the Holy Land might not be able to accommodate a few void creatures. If they went on a rampage, they would destroy a lot of things. Fation took out the jerky and went to a shop by the roadside. The shop was so simple that it made one's hair stand up. It was just a random wooden board used as a product display table. Some things were placed on it in a mess. They were all void specialties. Fation didn't recognize many of them. Fation used a bag of jerky to get the address of the cub house. Standing in front of the door of the cub house, Fation's hope was shattered. He thought that the conditions of the cub house might be better. After all, no matter how hard it was, it couldn't be hard on the children. No matter how poor it was, it couldn't be poor in education. At the low door, there was a wooden plaque with words that Fation didn't recognize. It was probably the words "cub house." There were many cracks on the wooden plaque, causing the words to be incoherent. Fation wanted to turn around and leave. This was the city world that Ning Shu was looking forward to. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3749. Tai Shu looked at Ning Shu coldly and silently. Ning Shu coughed and asked, "Why did you take out the whip?" Tai Shu said, "Try again." "Oh," Ning Shu said. "Then lie down." "Tai Shu?" Ning Shu reacted. "I'm not asking you to lie down. I mean, tell me what you need me to do first. Since you want me to help, you have to tell me the inside story so that I can know what to do." "What if I hit you too hard?" This is too hardcore. Just thinking about it makes me excited." Tai Shu thought for a moment and said, "That thing is a trace of Zheng Qing's will. It's suppressing my body, but because of the Law C, it became like this." Ning Shu, as expected. When the silver-haired man said that Zheng Qing had the Law C, he knew it. If that black fog was Zheng Qing, that black fog would want to kill her. Zheng Qing's obsession was really deep. He had become like that, but he still wanted to kill her. Ning Shu asked, "Why is he chasing me?" "I'm not a syrup." Tai Shu, "He probably wants to swallow you." Ning Shu forced a smile. "I also want to swallow Zheng Qing." Ning Shu probably knew what Tai Shu wanted him to do. Just like before, he wanted to suppress Zheng Qing. This. Ning Shu pointed to his neck and asked, "Why do you have tattoos on your face?" "Of course, I know. You have tattoos, but you're a good boy." Tai Shu glanced at Ning Shu and said, "That's something contaminated. When I use my power, I can't suppress the thing in my body. This will happen." Ning Shu said, "Well, Khan went to the Holy Land." Tai Shu was expressionless. If it could be translated, it would be, "Why did you talk so much?" Tai Shu said, "Go deal with the fragments." Then he turned and left. Ning Shu reached out his hand. Tai Shu turned back and touched the scar on his cheek. Obviously, this was a silent warning. Ning Shu ignored the scar on his face and asked, "Didn't you let Jingqing sink? You still have a trace of his consciousness. Don't you want him to die?" Tai Shu didn't say anything, so Ning Shu took it as a yes. Ning Shu couldn't help but suck in a breath. She didn't think that Tai Shu was being kind to him. Jingqing didn't think that Tai Shu was being. After interacting with Jingqing for a period of time, who was Jingqing? He was the boss of the heavens, the second boss of the heavens. No, he was the second boss of the heavens. He was a reckless and arrogant person, never cared about anything. Even if the Law Sea was destroyed. Now he had become like this and was being suppressed, didn't have any freedom. With only a sliver of consciousness, it was clear that it did not possess a strong mind. At most, it was muddle-headed. Perhaps in Jingqing's Tai Shu wanted to torture. Ning Shu made a sound of surprise. Such heavy and perverted feelings? I wish you two 100 years of happiness and to merge as one soon. Tai Shu looked at Ning Shu's strange face expressionlessly. Who knew what she was thinking? Ning Shu asked again, "How is the newly created Law Sea now?" Tai Shu touched the scar on his face. Ning Shu asked, "Does it hurt?" "It looks disfigured." "Don't touch it. It's easy to get infected, and then your face will be ruined." Such a subtle threat and not pointing a gun at her was probably very tolerant. Very good, there would be many days like this in the future. Tai Shu said, "Take care of yourself." Then he turned and left. Ning Shu clicked her tongue and went to deal with the star stone. It seemed that Fodder played an important role. After all, he was needed to carry the will of death. With the will of death, he was an important weapon against the black fog. Of course, the will of death was also important. The will of death was the main force suppressing Jingqing. He asked for help with a cold face. Only you can be cold. I can be cold too. Not long after, Tai Shu returned and gave Ning Shu a sword. Ning Shu took the sword and looked at it. "Okay, I'll help." Then he raised the sword and slashed at Tai Shu's body. Tai Shu said, "It's interesting to pretend to be crazy and take advantage of others." Ning Shu said, "Of course it's interesting." It was a source of joy. Black lines climbed up Tai Shu's neck and quickly spread to his whole face. He was shrouded in black fog. He probably removed the power suppressing Jingqing, and now Jingqing popped out. Ning Shu said, "Wait." Tai Shu looked at Ning Shu with scarlet eyes. In his red eyes, a pair of vertical pupils could be vaguely seen. They were opening and closing, full of danger. Ning Shu said, "Remember to pay me. I never help for free." Their friendship wasn't at the level of helping for free. He helped the organization deal with star stones for free, but he couldn't earn any merit points. There was also a group of skeletons waiting to be raised. "I'm helping you and giving you benefits. Otherwise, the organization will say that I'm heartless." Tai Shu didn't speak. The black fog around him became thicker and thicker, condensing into a huge black mushroom cloud. Ning Shu rushed over. Ning Shu felt that Tai Shu had removed all the suppressing power, so the black fog was many times stronger than before. Ning Shu cursed in his heart. This was too much. He released all the power. What if she couldn't withstand it? Moreover, things like swords had to be cut at close range. Whips could be extended. Once close, it was easy to be contaminated by the black fog. Once touched, he might be swallowed up. Looking at the black fog, Ning Shu clicked his tongue. Jingqing was so ugly now, like the evil beast in the world of samsara. He felt like Jingqing, but to some extent, he wasn't. Ning Shu pointed his middle finger at the black fog and said word by word, "Jingqing, you're so ugly. You're so ugly. So ugly." There were several echoes. The black mushroom cloud paused for a moment, and then quickly rushed over to Ning Shu. Ning Shu held the sword with both hands and summoned the will of death. This sword was probably a primordial treasure, which was why it could carry the will of death. But if he slashed with this sword, even if he cut the black fog in half, he might be surrounded by the black fog because he was close to it. He would definitely be swallowed up. If he helped, he would lose his life. Therefore, Ning Shu didn't immediately rush up and slash at the black fog. Instead, he was chased by the black fog and didn't act rashly. He didn't know if this sword could be made bigger like a whip, or at least a long-range attack weapon. Attacking at close range? Sorry, I can't do that. Getting close to the black fog? It was impossible in this life. But this wouldn't solve the problem. Chapter 3750. After all, it wasn't his weapon, so he didn't feel comfortable using it. This sword was a primordial treasure, but Ning Shu felt like he was holding a pig iron sword. A useless pig iron sword. Looking at the approaching black fog, what could Ning Shu do? He could only run. If it was a whip, she might turn around and hit it. But since it was a sword, then forget it. Tai Shu's body emitted a dense black fog. This black fog kept gathering toward the black mushroom cloud, making it stronger and stronger. Ning Shu's chances of winning were getting smaller and smaller. Not to mention suppressing it, he didn't even have a chance to fight it. He was so careless as to release this power. The black fog was like a beast out of a cage. It didn't take much effort to create it. Previously, Zheng Qing had sucked away so much of her soul power. Now, Zheng Qing only had a trace of consciousness left, but he still wanted to suck her. It was already generous of her not to suck it back. She didn't expect this guy to chase after her. This was really awkward. Tai Shu didn't care whether he could deal with it or not. He directly released all his power to deal with it. Not to mention suppressing it, he didn't even dare to approach it. If he went, he would die. It was really terrifying. Moreover, the black fog was constantly being released from Tai Shu's body. The most intuitive manifestation was that the black mushroom cloud was getting bigger and bigger. In front of it, Ning Shu was as small as an ant. Next time when he wants to help, he should directly refuse. Sorry, I'm not strong enough. I'll find someone else. What kind of monster had Zheng Qing become? There was so much black fog in Tai Shu's body. TSK, there was too much trash. Ning Shu shouted to Tai Shu, I can't use this sword. If he couldn't deal with it, then he could only run. It was probably because of his little vitality that the black fog wanted to swallow him. Tai Shu still didn't move. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Could it be that Tai Shu couldn't move at this time? Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. She raised her sword and slashed out a sword energy at the mushroom cloud. The sword energy pierced through the black fog and split the sword energy into two. At the beginning, the black fog wriggled, and that wriggling feeling was like flesh and blood, which made people feel very uncomfortable. The black fog slowly fused together. Although it was able to fuse together, it did not appear to be fatal. However, after being slashed by Ning Shu, some of the black fog dissipated. Although the damage wasn't visible to the naked eye, it was still a little bit weaker. Ning Shu unleashed a few more sword chi in succession. He felt an indescribable sense of awkwardness in his heart. He was probably used to using a whip, so he felt that this kind of sword chi was very boring. It did not have the feeling of a whip hitting something solid. The black fog was attacked, and it continued to absorb the black fog from Grand Elder's body. The black fog on Grand Elder's body was getting lighter and lighter. Apparently, all of his power was about to be released. Ning Shu's mouth twitched. He really thought highly of her. She could handle something that even he couldn't handle. Ning Shu ran very quickly. As he ran, he would turn around and send out a few sword beams before running away again. Ning Shu did not want to get involved with such filthy things. If it was an evil beast, she could still get rid of it. However, this thing would directly devour her and not pollute her. Ning Shu led the black fog around in circles. The black fog's 5 ignorant consciousnesses were obviously impatient. It was very impatient with such a chase, so it sped up. Ning Shu was speechless. Fuck mama, there's a pervert chasing me. Moreover, the black fog also stretched out its black tentacles to catch Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, move, move. Don't touch me. To avoid these black fog tentacles, Ning Shu jumped down and twisted her waist left and right. If a tentacle was about to catch her, she would immediately send out a sword chi to cut off the tentacle. If there was really no other way, they would chase each other like this. She would slowly give it a knife and then a sword. If she fought it head-on, she would definitely lose. Ning Shu put her hands behind her back and pointed at the black mushroom cloud. Jingqing, you ugly bastard. The angrier the other party was, the better. She hoped that Jingqing could still understand her. I've become so beautiful, and you've become so ugly. You're a monster. Ning Shu put her hands around her mouth and shouted, I'm so beautiful, and you're so ugly. You still have the nerve to live in this world. You still have the nerve to live in this world. Live in this world. In this world, in this world, in this world. The mushroom cloud opened its mouth and directly spat out clouds of black fog. These sticky, asphalt-like things rained down on Ning Shu. Ning Shu was speechless. He probably understood what he said. How exciting! Ning Shu made a thick water curtain in front of her to prevent the dirty things from touching her. However, these things directly penetrated the water curtain and smashed towards Ning Shu without slowing down. The water curtain didn't work. She used an ice curtain. She condensed a very tall and thick ice curtain above her head. In the end, cracks appeared one after another. It was still effective. Ning Shu thickened the ice layer. Staring at the thick ice, she had to move left and right. She kept probing at the edge of death. Jingqing must be very angry now. He had become like this and was being mocked by the person he had always looked down on. How angry must he be? The angrier, the better. It was also because Fation wasn't by her side and it wasn't convenient for her to use this sword. Otherwise, she would have already drawn it. As for Jingqing, new and old hatred arose. It was a pity that Fation wasn't here. Ning Shu dodged while thinking. He felt that his hand was empty. The sword in his hand had disappeared. He turned his head and saw that the senior granduncle was holding the sword flying towards him. Was the senior granduncle awake? If he was awake, then he would deal with it himself. Without the black fog in his body, his figure became more vigorous. He held the sword, and the blade kept growing. Ning Shu sighed. Why couldn't this thing change in his hand? The senior granduncle raised his sword and faced the black fog. He stood still and calmly slashed down. The huge black fog mushroom cloud was directly split into two. The black fog emitted an inaudible sound wave, but it made people feel very uncomfortable. It was as if their souls were vibrating along with the sound wave. This was probably the black fog's painful wail. Ning Shu watched from the side as the senior granduncle slashed the black fog again and again. Before the black fog could gather, it was split apart again. It was so painful just by looking at it. Ning Shu felt a chill all over his body. He really didn't understand why the senior granduncle was doing this. If it was for brotherly love, then by suppressing him in his body, the contamination of the Law C would affect Jingqing. Now, he was neither human nor ghost. He couldn't suppress him anymore, but he still wanted to suppress him. He even started to deprive him of his strength. He just wanted him to stay in his body steadily. How painful would it be to have those swords slashing on his body? Jingqing was Ning Shu's enemy. Ning Shu didn't expect this at all. /BK. Chapter 3751. She wanted to kill Jingqing one day, but she didn't come up with such a law. Maybe it was because of love or enmity that she used such a method to torture him. If this was a mushroom cloud, Ning Shu would rather die than end up like this. He believed that with Jingqing's character, he wouldn't be grateful to granduncle. He would be suppressed like a prisoner. Ning Shu took a deep breath. Damn, Jingqing, your brother is a pervert. If granduncle didn't want his brother to die in the name of love, this situation would be even more perverted. Ning Shu retreated far away and looked at granduncle from afar to avoid being affected by the sound waves. Affected by the sound waves, Ning Shu felt that his soul power had weakened. It formed a resonance. If it continued like this, his soul would be shaken apart. It was as if he was expressionlessly stabbing people with his sword. After being slashed countless times, the black fog was obviously thinner. It was scattered into several clumps and couldn't condense together for a long time. Its power was greatly reduced. Granduncle didn't stop. He split the black fog into smaller clumps. The black fog desperately wanted to fuse together, but it was cut off by the will of death. If they wanted to fuse together, They had to get rid of the will of death at the cut first. Moreover, the will of death would eat away at her. Ning Shu thought about it again. If Zheng Qing swallowed her in one gulp, she didn't know who would be able to eat who. Was the will of death more powerful or the black fog more powerful? In fact, Grand Uncle needed a weapon with the will of death. As long as there was the aura of the will of death, it would weaken the black fog. That was good. Otherwise, she would have to deal with the black fog. With Fation by her side, she might be able to, but other weapons. Obviously, Grand Uncle's weapon couldn't be used by her. She couldn't even use 1% of its strength. Then what was the point of playing? Such a big mushroom cloud was now split into small cotton balls. They floated around Grand Uncle, looking very pitiful. These cotton balls kept attacking Grand Uncle, but it was useless. They couldn't cause any damage to Grand Uncle. Grand Uncle absorbed the black fog into his body. For a long time, Zheng Qing wouldn't be able to come out and cause trouble. He was locked up again. Ning Shu clicked his tongue and shook his head. Evil people would be dealt with by evil people. In front of the Grand Elder, Zheng Qing was a powerless child. He tried his best to resist, but it was useless. He was still mercilessly suppressed. Grand Uncle was an elder, while Zheng Qing was a reckless child. There was only happiness and unhappiness, and nothing else mattered. This scene of love and killing was really horrifying. It was a bloody scene. After absorbing all the black fog back into his body, Grand Elder put away his sword and walked to Ning Shu's side, saying, "It's dangerous to release him now." Ning Shu pursed his lips. "This monster was raised by you, as if sacrificing your own body to suppress it is so noble." Ning Shu felt that as long as it was an intelligent creature with emotions, they would be moved by themselves, just like himself and the current Grand Elder. Tai Shu is probably touching himself right now. Ning Shu said directly, "I don't know if it's dangerous or not, but it's directly related to you that he became like this. Remember to give me the reward." Grand Elder had single-handedly contributed to the current situation, instead of making up for it later. However, he said that it was dangerous to release him now, and it was also for the sake of the world. It was Grand Elder's personal matter. Even if Zheng Qing came out to harm the world, it was Grand Elder's fault. The biggest difference between Grand Elder and Zheng Qing was that Grand Elder seemed to have a great sense of responsibility, while Zheng Qing only cared about himself. Ning Shu said, "Don't tell me you don't want to pay me for contributing to the world, so I shouldn't charge you?" Grand Elder raised his eyebrows. "Huh?" Ning Shu covered her chest and stared at the Grand Uncle, dumbfounded. "You guys are too inhumane. You can't even eat, drink, defecate, and sleep in order to serve the people of the world? Eating, drinking, defecating, and sleeping all cost money, okay? Even gods couldn't do that. Praying to gods and Buddhas required money for incense and oil. Even 3 sticks of incense had to be burned." Grand Elder said, "It's not like I'm not giving you money. Why are you shouting?" Ning Shu said, "Then you should have said so earlier. Once you talk about the world, you're making people work for nothing. Next time, just give me the weapon." She needed a weapon with the will of death. That was enough for Grand Elder. She didn't need to run around with the black fog. Grand Elder said, "I'll need you next time." Ning Shu glanced at him. "But," Grand Elder said directly, "I need you to attract its attention. Otherwise, it will attack my body." Ning Shu was speechless. Fuck. Not only did he use her will of death, but he also wanted to use her as a target. If there was someone who attracted Zheng Qing's attention, then Zheng Qing would definitely pay attention to that person. Without her as a live target, Zheng Qing would probably destroy the body that imprisoned him. Without Grand Elder's body to suppress him, Zheng Qing was free. Under normal circumstances, this would be the case. However, it was obvious that because of her vitality, Zheng Qing's little IQ was placed on her. He just had to chase after her. "Child, if your IQ was half as high as your brother's, you wouldn't end up like this, being played in the palm of his hand." They all crawled out of the sea of laws. Why was the difference so big? There was a difference in IQ, and there were more people on Grand Elder's side. Otherwise, Grand Elder would have been the one sacrificed. There was strength in numbers. Ning Shu asked, "You let him out and then played with him with a sword, right?" Grand Elder said, "When I let him out, I needed to remove all the power in my body." Ning Shu nodded and suddenly understood. Then he chuckled inwardly. That was right. During that time, Grand Elder was in a more vulnerable state. He couldn't suppress the evil thoughts in his heart. Ning Shu said, "Double." Grand Elder said, "No." Ning Shu was speechless. "Do you think you're playing Fight the Landlord?" Ning Shu said, "I absorbed so much firepower for you. The reward should be doubled. Moreover, once I touch the black fog, it will devour my soul power. I lost a lot of soul power last time. You want people to die, but you don't give them a tempting price." It was said that wealth came from danger. Where was it? Ning Shu, who had been working for free recently, was short of money. "If you don't double, then I can only give you some will of death for your weapon. As for the black fog, sorry, I can't do it." Grand Elder said coldly, "Ask the main system for it." Ning Shu nodded and waved at Grand Elder's back. "Don't be so cheap, friend. If you need anything next time, come to me." Bitter life. After he was done here, he still had to deal with the fragments. /BK. Chapter 3752. Ning Shu was thinking about the reward. What was it? If it was too little, he wouldn't agree to help so easily next time. But seeing that Zheng Qing had been cut so many times, he didn't have the strength to do anything for a while. Their brotherly love was really touching. Ning Shu didn't sympathize with Zheng Qing's experience at all, and it wasn't Ning Shu's turn to sympathize. Zheng Qing had strength and a brother to protect him. Even if he was thrown into the law of nothingness, he was still alive. It was just a sullen life. Ning Shu was lucky because he had escaped from Zheng Qing's hands. He hadn't been torn apart like the previous mission enforcers, and his soul might have been absorbed by Zheng Qing. So did Zheng Qing need sympathy? He didn't need it at all. He was such a proud person. After dealing with the Star Stone, Ning Shu returned to the system space and asked the main system for the reward. Silver-haired man, 50 million merit points. Ning Shu. That she suspected that the 50 million yuan was the same 50 million yuan that she had given him, but it was just a spin. Ning Shu asked, "Shouldn't you reduce the free time a little?" Silver-haired man, "That's the value." "Then why don't you find someone else?" The will of death was unique. Silver-haired man, "No." Ning Shu, "If you don't, then don't. Why are you so loud?" Looking at the 2 exclamation marks on the screen, he felt that the silver-haired man was probably roaring in his heart. Ning Shu, "Reduce it by 50 years. If there was a next time, another 50 years would be reduced. That would be 100 years. Silver-haired man, "No." Get lost. Ning Shu sighed. It was easy to give merit points. Free time for 5,000 years, she had created more value than 50 million. It was just a negotiation. If they couldn't reach an agreement, they would wait for the next time. Next time, they would negotiate the terms first and then help. Ning Shu leaned back on the sofa and thought about Yeton. He wondered how Ifitian was doing with his studies. Ifitian from the Holy Land looked coldly at the group of cubs rolling around in the mud. "You scratch me, I scratch you." At the side, there was an old man who was trembling as he supported himself with a walking stick. He looked at the cubs with a kind and gratified expression. He even said to Gran, "You go and play too. You're a child after all. You need to go out and play more. Only then will you know how miserable your death will be." Ifitian, "I don't believe you. I want to go home." Ning Shu, "Hurry up and summon me." "Summon me?" Ning Shu expressed his melancholy and longing for a while. Suddenly, something like an electric current passed through his soul and numbed his entire body. Following which, Ning Shu saw the peerless martial arts on the bookshelf change. As the book floated up, the color on its surface began to fade. The words peerless martial art slowly fell off and disappeared. Not only the words, but the color of the book also seemed to be fading. A transparent texture was revealed, and the book was shrinking and thickening at the same time. It formed a square transparent object the size of a fist. Ning Shu touched the cube object. It was very hard on the outside. Ning Shu held the Peerless Martial Arts book with both hands and observed it. From the outside, it was a cube made of glass. However, he couldn't see what was inside. With such a change, it was impossible to tell that it was a book before. Ning Shu took a deep breath. He still wanted his Peerless Martial Arts book to form a world carrier. Flipping a page would be a world. That would be so cool. Now that it had become like this, it definitely wasn't a book. From a book to a glass object, this didn't seem scientific at all. The difference between glass and paper was huge. Ning Shu wanted to enter and see what was inside, but he was bounced back. He couldn't enter at all. This wasn't the first time he was rejected by the Peerless Martial Arts book. He felt helpless. Ning Shu didn't know whether this change was good or bad. Whether it was good or bad, Ning Shu couldn't interfere. It would depend on the natural evolution of the Peerless Martial Arts book. As for what it could evolve, Ning Shu didn't care so much. He didn't have much obsession with building a living space now. He didn't have such worries, so he naturally saw through it. After absorbing so much energy, he hoped that the Peerless Martial Arts book would have a good result. It was good that there were changes, but he was afraid that there wouldn't be any changes. It was that the dream in his heart was shattered. Ning Shu thought about it. Zheng Qing gave up attacking the Grand Uncle's body. At that time, the Grand Uncle was really weak. It could be said that it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Zheng Qing gave up and chose to attack and devour him. It was probably because of the fusion with the Peerless Martial Arts book that his body was stained with vitality. Now that the Sea of Law needed it, the Grand Uncle who was directly connected to the Sea of Law also needed it. Although Zheng Qing was just a wisp of consciousness now and might have been separated from the Sea of Law, she was bound to be affected in the Grand Uncle's body. So, she attacked and devoured her. She probably wanted to devour the Peerless Martial Arts book even more. Ning Shu could only rejoice now. The previous Peerless Martial Arts book was just a low-level martial arts book. Otherwise, it would have been devoured by Zheng Qing, who was still called 2333 at that time. Zheng Qing left earlier, or this Peerless Martial Arts book would have been in Zheng Qing's mouth. Zheng Qing was probably impatient. She sent some merits to the skeletons and the others. She had just received 50 million merits. Now, she wanted to earn money. After all, the world of reincarnation was expanding, and the skeletons needed were increasing. After making new skeletons, she would need a large amount of merits to nurture the new skeletons. Now, other than the functions she could earn from picking up fragments and processing star stones, she didn't get many merits from doing missions. It wasn't enough to nurture the skeletons. But now, she was doing free work. If she couldn't get any merits, where could she find them? As for the two restaurants, it was good enough that they could break even and didn't ask her for money. Lack of money. Where could she go to earn some extra money? Ning Shu came to the world of reincarnation. There were a few more world of reincarnation that had the outline of the world of reincarnation. Moreover, they were slowly forming the reincarnation pool. There were also a few empty world of reincarnation. They already had the world of reincarnation, but they didn't have souls. If he could attract souls into these world of reincarnation, wouldn't he be able to earn a large amount of merits? There were definitely people whose living worlds needed to be connected to the world of reincarnation. If the souls couldn't enter the world of reincarnation and go through the cycle of life and death, they would form a deformed world. For example, Nine Palace Mountain. In order to digest the souls in the world, it formed a grotesque world. Ning Shu gave the merits to Zhu Jun and said, "Help me look out for some souls without intelligence. Collect them. My soul is weak." Zhu Jun said, "If you need soul power so much, there are plenty of souls in the world of reincarnation." Ning Shu waved his hand, "Just look for souls without intelligence. Don't bother with them if they have intelligence." It was good enough to get some extra soul power if the soul power was weak. Chapter 3753. Big Head's soul power was still needed to complete the mission. Also, Ning Shu felt that the soul power from the mission was a little different. As for what was different, there was a faint trace of faith power. After all, when helping to change someone's life and offering their soul, their feelings would definitely be complicated. These souls were a little different. Zhu Jun nodded. I understand. I won't touch those souls with intelligence. Ning Shu said, I'll have to trouble you to take care of the world of reincarnation. He would send them when he had the money next time. Ning Shu asked, how many empty worlds of reincarnation are there? I want to connect a few living worlds. Are there enough people in the world of reincarnation? Zhu Jun counted with his fingers and asked, how many worlds of reincarnation do you plan to connect? Now, each world of reincarnation connects 5 living worlds. I plan to connect 2 worlds first. More than 2,000 skeletons, it wasn't a lot. Zhu Jun nodded. Okay, I'll arrange it with them. When Ning Shu heard this, he wanted to grab Zhu Jun's hand and pat it. Comrade, you've worked hard. Zhu Jun. Ning Shu immediately did what he said. He planned to connect 2 worlds of reincarnation to 10 living worlds. How could he contact the people he needed? Ning Shu thought about it. He could only auction. Previously, he was bidding by himself, but it was quite troublesome. He directly let the auction house take some profits and let the auction house advertise it. Ning Shu came to the auction house and found Si Tian to auction something. Si Tian saw Ning Shu and said, long time no see. I thought you were gone. These words were ordinary. After all, the mission enforcers came and went. No one knew when they would die. Ning Shu said, I want to auction the world of reincarnation, Si Tian. World of reincarnation? Ning Shu, the quota to connect to the world of reincarnation. Si Tian sighed. I thought it was a world of reincarnation. Who could afford this thing? It would only be unsold. A living world was easy to construct. It needed a world carrier. Throw in all kinds of world origin and see if it could form a living world. There was a high chance of forming a living world. But the world of reincarnation wasn't easy to construct. Moreover, he didn't know how to construct it. Si Tian asked, how many spots? Ning Shu said, 10. A few samsara worlds were empty. Si Tian was speechless. Ning Shu looked at Si Tian's silence and asked, less? Si Tian said, that's too much. 10 is too much. It's like a mass sale. 3 to 5 is more like it. Ning Shu said, then I'll leave it to you. Anyway, I'll leave 10 slots with you. You can operate it as you see fit. Si Tian asked, may I ask who this world of reincarnation belongs to? When the time comes, will it be easy to contact? Will there be any wrangling? This must be verified. If someone came and said that he wanted to auction the quota of the world of samsara, but the buyer couldn't contact the seller, it would ruin his reputation. Ning Shu opened the black hole. You will be in the world of reincarnation once you enter. This is my world, so there's no need to worry. Si Tian asked, can I go in and take a look? Ning Shu said, please. Si Tian entered the world of reincarnation. Ning Shu ate snacks and drank tea. After a while, Si Tian came out. Ning Shu placed the teacup down and asked, can I? Si Tian nodded. It is indeed the world of reincarnation. I didn't expect you to build it. If there's a tutorial, it would definitely sell well. Ning Shu. I don't know either. But Si Tian's expression was a little hesitant. I've checked your world. There seems to be quite a number of souls. I'm afraid it won't work to put in another 10 souls from the living world. The world of samsara will explode. Ning Shu explained, not that. There are 2 empty slots. Si Tian's face was numb. There are 2 more. Ning Shu nodded, right, so it will be fine. Don't worry about the auction. Do you want to take a look at the empty world of reincarnation? Si Tian said. Then let's take a look. Ning Shu brought Si Tian into the empty world of reincarnation. Usually, this black hole could only connect to the first world of reincarnation. Si Tian couldn't enter the other worlds of reincarnation. Si Tian looked at the 2 empty worlds of reincarnation. She even held a video recorder in her hand. She was probably going to record what she saw. She especially focused on the pool of reincarnation. She even recorded the dreamy and beautiful scenes in the pool of reincarnation. Ning Shu didn't have any objections. Si Tian did all this for the sake of the auction. It was beneficial for her. Back at the auction house, Si Tian sincerely suggested to Ning Shu again, "You can really write a guide for building a world of reincarnation. I guarantee it will sell well." Actually, building a world of reincarnation is a trap. The early stage requires a world carrier. The middle stage requires the origin of the world. Later on, when living beings are born, they need to connect to the world of reincarnation. It was really a waste of money. The organization used a lot of effort to build a world of reincarnation. It could be used to store living beings from broken worlds. The organization agreed, but there wouldn't be any subsidies. Whether it was good or bad depended on oneself. Of course, one could choose not to build a world of reincarnation. But in general, building a world of reincarnation was a losing business. To a certain extent, it was built for the organization. If the organization wanted to use your world of reincarnation, you had to use the world of reincarnation to store living beings that didn't belong to your world. A beautiful lie was born. Many people embarked on the path of building a world of reincarnation. If there were too many worlds of reincarnation, it would be a little overcrowded. It would be more difficult to connect to the world of reincarnation at the same time. The world of reincarnation of His Excellency didn't have to connect to the world of reincarnation. But the world of reincarnation would also collapse like the world of reincarnation. If a world of reincarnation collapsed, the world of reincarnation would need to accept the souls in the collapsed world of reincarnation. It also needed to connect to the collapsed world of reincarnation. The burden wasn't light either. Then building a world of reincarnation was simply a matter of small capital. It didn't matter if it was empty. But the world of reincarnation couldn't be built. Ning Shu said sincerely, "I don't know." Fa Tian didn't believe her. He felt that she was hiding something. But there was nothing wrong with her not being willing to say, "Ning Shu, I really don't know. Believe me. Forget it, let's not talk about it." She didn't even believe her own words. She didn't know the formation process of the world of reincarnation. She only knew that it was a soul pearl in the beginning. What was it after that? Boundary stone? And then? It seemed to have formed a black hole. Then what was the situation after the black hole? She really didn't know. The world of reincarnation she built was obviously not as clear as the process of building a world of reincarnation. If she really wrote some construction strategy, she would just write a bunch of nonsense and let many people embark on the path of building a world of reincarnation. In the end, if she couldn't build it, she would probably be cursed out. She wasted time and didn't gain anything. Ning Shu thought about it and gave up. If she figured it out, she might come up with a strategy. Chapter 3754. What strategy? How much could a strategy earn? Maybe in this lifetime, he would be able to come up with a strategy. Next was to advertise and wait for the slots to be auctioned. Ning Shu sat in the private room and looked at the auction stage. The auctioneer greeted everyone and then started the auction. He didn't want to say anything else. Ning Shu looked at the auction items. There were all kinds of them. World sources were bought together. It was a set of world sources: metal, wood, water, fire, earth, light, and darkness. They weren't sold individually. This way, he could save a lot of time and effort to gather them one by one. There was also the auction of world sources. If one had enough money, they could buy a set of world sources and a world carrier. A pile of them might form a living world. Being rich was really convenient. Ning Shu used to collect world sources one by one for his peerless martial arts. He didn't have the money to buy a world carrier and used the peerless martial arts as a world carrier. The peerless martial arts had eaten many things, but they still didn't form a living world. Some people fought for world sources, others fought for world carriers. Ning Shu just looked and didn't have any desire to buy. Even if there were treasures in the void world, Ning Shu still didn't feel anything. It was probably because he had seen too many things in the void world. Speaking of the void world, he didn't know if the previous batch of underwater fruits had ripened. The organization even gave him half. Ning Shu looked at the auction and thought. He had to ask his master. If he didn't ask, there wouldn't be any. Ning Shu flipped through the auction list. He didn't know if there was anything that could change one's physique. There were very few things that could change one's physique. Ning Shu knew that there was only one emperor granule. Moreover, the risk was very high. It was like buying a lottery ticket. No, even if you didn't win the lottery, the one who lost was the one who bought the lottery ticket. Emperor granule was different. Ning Shu flipped through the auction list and his gaze stopped at one item. Diamond fruit. Ning Shu pointed at the description of the diamond fruit line by line. As the name implied, the diamond fruit could make one's soul as hard as diamond. It greatly strengthened the soul. It seemed to have the same effect as the fruit Ning Shu ate before. However, it was very expensive. Ning Shu thought for a moment and decided to buy it. No matter what kind of fruit it was, it would be good to eat it. As for whether it had any effect, he would know after eating it. The auctioneer brought a shiny golden object that resembled a Buddha's hand onto the auction stage. The auctioneer said, "Diamond fruit, starting at 50 million merit points." Ning Shu clicked his tongue. It was so expensive. Even the price of his fruit wasn't this high. I don't know what it tastes like, sweet or sour. Ning Shu was the first to make a bid. He directly said, 60 million. Adding 10 million right off the bat? Shouldn't he be adding it bit by bit? He was a fool with a lot of money. After Ning Shu made his bid, there was a moment of silence. Then, someone else followed suit and made a bid. Ning Shu, 70 million. Everyone, psycho. Is it a ploy to raise prices? Shameless. Is it a dirty trick of the auction house? The people who sell things these days are so dirty. 70 million for a shiny golden fruit. Even if it was really gold, it wouldn't be that expensive. 70 million was already a premium. No one was willing to lose out. Hence, Ning Shu took the fruit. Ning Shu was very satisfied. He got it, but it was a little difficult to pay for it. If the slot wasn't sold, he would have to pay for it with all his money. Ning Shu wasn't interested in the following auctions. Then, the slot for the world of reincarnation was the final item. There was also a video introduction on the screen to ensure the authenticity of this slot. The auctioneer said, "Let's start the auction." There are a total of 3 slots. The starting price is 50 million merit points. Each bid must be at least 10,000 merit points. The auction starts now. There was a lot of discussion below. Many people whispered to each other. Someone stood up and asked, "Is this world of reincarnation built by humans?" The auctioneer said, "Yes, it is built by mission enforcers. There are empty worlds of reincarnation. Now, let's auction the slots." The world of reincarnation still belonged to the owner of the world of reincarnation. They spent money to buy the slots. Ning Shu pressed the bell. After a while, the staff of the auction house entered the private room and asked Ning Shu if he needed anything. Ning Shu said, "Let the auctioneer announce my name." "It's okay." He had to announce his name. If someone needed to connect to the world of reincarnation, they would definitely contact him. There was no need to hide it. These people were all here to give him money. After the staff left, the auctioneer received a notification. Then he said to the crowd, "The creator of the world of reincarnation is Ning Shu." Generally, people who came to buy or sell things wouldn't announce their names to the public. Ning Shu thought that there were so many people here. It would be a waste if he didn't advertise. When his name was spread, he wouldn't have to worry about people looking for him. Someone had already started to bid. 51 million, 55 million. The price was gradually rising. It had already exceeded 70 million. Some people had already given up. It was obvious that the price was a little high. Maybe it was because the living world didn't need to connect to the world of reincarnation. It was still okay. He could earn back the money he spent on the fruit. The first spot was sold for 75 million merit points. The price of the second spot was slightly lower. It was 70 million merit points. However, the price of the third spot exceeded 80 million merit points. Ning Shu listened to these numbers happily. He had money to raise skeletons. He also made a wave of advertisements. After the auction, Ning Shu got the diamond fruit. At the same time, the people who got the spots came to him. Ning Shu took the money and said to the 3 of them, "Take out your living world and connect it to the world of reincarnation." The 2 of them took out their worlds. One of them said that he didn't have a living world. Ning Shu, you don't have a living world. Why are you auctioning a spot? That person laughed, giving off a type of golden radiance. He said, even though I don't have a world of life, I can auction off a slot in advance. This slot has always been there, right? Ning Shu, this was what it meant to be rich. It was also very awesome to spend tens of millions to buy something that he didn't need for the time being. It was very rare to see such a rich person in a world without a living world. Even now, Ning Shu was sometimes short of money. Ning Shu, the spot has always been there. Don't worry about it. Okay, I'll come to you later. He connected the other two to the world of reincarnation and said to them, you guys pay more attention to your own worlds. If there's any problem with the channel, inform me immediately. I can deal with it. The two of them nodded and talked to Ning Shu for a while. They would be in a cooperative relationship in the future. They had to get to know each other. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3755. Both parties exchanged their names and left. The remaining person stood still, not intending to leave. Ning Shu asked, is there anything else? That person's face was young and tender. He didn't look like someone who had suffered much. He asked, how did you build the world of reincarnation? I haven't seen anyone build a world of reincarnation. My brother is so powerful, but he couldn't build a world of reincarnation. Ning Shu said, your brother? Biological. That person nodded. Yes, biological. Ning Shu nodded. He seemed to see another path. Yes, it seemed like they could recommend mission enforcers to enter the organization. If the soul didn't meet the requirements, there would be a way to surpass the standard. She had recommended 2 people before. Actually, she could think of a way to let her 2 brothers enter the organization. She didn't know if that plane still existed. If the plane existed, were her 2 brothers still there? If they entered the world of reincarnation, would she have to go there to find them? But they might have already passed away. How did you build the world of reincarnation? He asked. Ning Shu sighed. I really don't know the details. I have money. Don't worry, I can give you as much as you want, Ning Shu said sincerely. Clearly, no matter how sincere Ning Shu's words were, no one would believe them. If it was Ning Shu himself, he probably wouldn't believe this person either. Kindness was just an excuse. That person said, all right, I was rude. You can state any conditions. This person obviously didn't care about the life space. He wanted to build the world of reincarnation. Ning Shu more or less understood. He wanted to buy a place to attract Jade. His original intention was to ask her for a strategy. What strategy? Ning Shu said, the construction of my world of reincarnation was a beautiful accident. So I really don't know the details. That person didn't say much. He just shrugged. Obviously, he didn't believe him. Seeing that Ning Shu didn't want to say anything more, he said goodbye and left. Ning Shu returned to the system space and gnawed on the golden fruit. It was soft and fluffy, as if he was gnawing on wet mud. The texture was terrible. Ning Shu finished eating the mud and then lowered his head to press on his soul. Well, nothing has changed for the time being. He didn't feel anything. He just ate the money and didn't feel anything. After a while, there were still no changes to his soul. Ning Shu planned to go to the plane where his family was and see if his brothers were still there. Ning Shu sat up from the sofa, but his soul suddenly scattered. His entire body turned into sand, and his soul turned into a pile of sand. Ning Shu, she could feel that her thoughts were still there, but the state of her soul had changed. She felt that her soul had turned into grains of sand. This change really made people speechless. Have I always been such a pile of sand, a pile of ashes? Ning Shu was still thinking, and then exist in the form of sand? As the wind blew, the ashes scattered. After a while, the sand condensed again and condensed into the original appearance of the soul. Ning Shu experimented a few more times and suddenly felt that it was good to have an additional state of the soul. Turning into sand, his soul was divided into many parts. Maybe when he encountered danger, he could still preserve a trace of life. The 70 million was worth it. Ning Shu searched for the space node that he left in the plane before and found that the space node was still there. He was delighted. Since the space node on the plane wall was still there, it meant that the plane was still there. Now that there was a problem with the Sea of Law, many planes were having problems. He didn't know how long this plane could last. Ning Shu stood beside the plane and looked at it. The plane wall was very dim. Although there were no cracks, it actually looked old. Sigh, birth, old age, illness, death, and extinction were things that couldn't be resisted. After entering the plane, he felt that the air wasn't so clear. The skyscrapers were about to reach the sky. It had developed to this point. He didn't know if his brothers were still there. Ning Shu looked for the mark. Back then, he made a mark on his two brothers. He found the mark, but there was only one. Ning Shu found a mark, which meant that one of the marks had disappeared. Since it disappeared, it was no longer in the plane of life. Ning Shu came to a courtyard. The greenery was done very well. Some gardeners were splashing water on the leaves. It was mainly because there was dust on the leaves, which made the leaves look gray. Ning Shu snuck into the room and saw a white-haired old man reading a book with a pair of reading glasses. He was completely engrossed. He was very thin. Ning Shu felt that this should be his big brother. Second brother was fat. Being fat was not good for the body. It was easy to have all kinds of problems. Big brother and second brother were the best examples. Ning Shu went through the wall and stood behind the wheelchair. He looked at the white hair on his big brother's head. It was snow white without a single black hair. It showed a different kind of charm. Ning Shu coughed softly. His big brother, who was reading, did not respond. Ning Shu guessed that his big brother's ears were not very sharp because he was old. Ning Shu stood in front of him. Only then did his big brother notice. He looked up. His reading glasses slid down the bridge of his nose. He asked, "You are?" Ning Shu's voice was slightly louder. "Big brother, it's me." His big brother closed the book and asked, "You're back. Your second brother was young and didn't pay attention. He left earlier than me." Ning Shu nodded and said directly, "Big brother is also this old. How can anyone not be old? You, on the other hand, still look like this." Ning Shu touched his face. "Big brother is envious of me. He also wants to walk my path." His big brother said, "Then tell me in detail. What is the reason for your existence?" Ning Shu pulled up a stool and told his elder brother everything about the organization. She told him everything in detail and in all seriousness. Ning Shu looked at his big brother. There was a faint light of merit on his body. He probably did something good. His big brother's eyes were a little dim. He looked at Ning Shu and said, I don't want to live like you. There are many paths in life. This path is actually not a happy one. I don't have much time left. According to what you said, I may enter the reincarnation cycle and start a new life. I will become an ant-like human. Are you happy to walk this path?" Ning Shu thought about it. Happy? When one's life was hanging by a thread, there was no joy in it. However, when one's life vanished like smoke, one's heart was filled with unwillingness. Ning Shu said, "Probably happy." His big brother said, "You are hesitating. You can come back to see me. It can be considered that you have fulfilled one of your wishes before you die. Don't talk about broadening my horizons. People don't need to have broad horizons. It's just living in a different class." To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3756. Ning Shu thought that Big Brother might agree or hesitate, but he didn't expect Big Brother to reject him directly. "Big Brother, don't you think that doing something with no end in sight is very scary and very hopeless?" Ning Shu, maybe. Rising and falling, high and low, beginning and end, even a river would dry up one day. Ordinary humans pursued immortality, but when they really did become immortal one day, they would probably be terrified and at a loss. Everything had to come to an end. Only then would people feel relaxed. She and Big Brother didn't have much of a relationship. When they were alive, they spent most of their time in the hospital. When people died, it was like a light went out. It was just that the family's ability to accept things was relatively strong. Otherwise, they would probably chase her away. To describe it in a more terrifying way, Ning Shu was now a ghost. A ghost that made the living feel terrified. Ning Shu laughed and said, "If Big Brother doesn't want to, then forget it. I'm here to ask you and take a look at you." Indeed, self-disciplined people could live longer. One brother and two sisters-in-law were no longer around. Only Big Brother was left. Big Brother nodded. "That's good too. I'm happy to see that you're doing well. Since you've already taken this path, then work hard." Ning Shu nodded and said, "I know." After thinking about it, he gave Big Brother some merit. This merit could make Big Brother's next life smoother and he could join a good family. Reincarnation was really a technical job. When the two of them didn't speak, the atmosphere was a little awkward. Ning Shu coughed and said, "Then Big Brother, I'm leaving. You can do some charity work. After all, even if Big Brother doesn't take my path, there's still the next life and the life after that. The heavens still favor good people. Although the next life and the life after that wouldn't remember this life, merit was in the soul. No matter what kind of person they became, merit was in the soul. No matter if it was a man or a woman, the things imprinted on the soul were the same. Looking at Big Brother's courtyard, it was obvious that he was rich. Money was sometimes the source of evil, but it depended on where it was used. Things like money were given value by humans. Everyone believed that money had value and abided by this rule. It was a value given by convenient transactions. In reality, how much could a piece of paper be worth? Big Brother nodded. "Thank you. I got it. Are you leaving?" Ning Shu said, "Why don't I accompany you, Big Brother?" Ning Shu could afford to waste this amount of time. His eldest brother raised his skinny hand that was covered in age spots and waved it. "There's no need. Go about your business. Don't think so much and don't worry too much about me." To put it bluntly, life had already parted ways. Even when they were still alive, they should have formed their own families and could only be considered relatives. Now they were separated by life and death. Big Brother said, "You suffered when you were alive. Although I don't know what kind of things you're doing by existing in this way, you should let yourself relax occasionally. You don't seem to be getting old, but to be honest, I pity you. I also feel a bit of heartache for you, and I'm also a bit scared, because everything has a price." Ning Shu revealed a bright smile. There is a price, but in order to live, there is definitely a price to pay. Ordinary people had to work hard to support themselves in order to survive. If they didn't need to eat, drink, and poop, who would work hard? Big Brother said, "You're right. If you think it can end, then let's end it." Ning Shu smiled and didn't say anything. Big Brother was old. After talking for a while, he felt a bit tired. He said, "I've seen you. If you have something to do, go do it. I'll lie down for a while." Ning Shu agreed. He wanted to help him to the bed, but now his soul was weak and would directly penetrate his body. If he released the vines, it would probably make Big Brother have high blood pressure. Big Brother directly said something to the sound sensing system in the room. Soon, someone came to take care of him and helped him to the bed to rest. He closed his eyes and fell asleep peacefully. Ning Shu directly left and summoned the world of samsara entrance of this world. The entrance was a black hole. Ning Shu entered the black hole. Through the black hole, he could enter the world of samsara where Second Brother was. Generally, Second Brother's soul would enter this connected world of samsara if nothing unexpected happened. He didn't know if Second Brother had jumped into the rebirth pool. If he did, then he would start a new life. Ning Shu entered a gray world. It was as if he had jumped into a noisy and crowded market. He couldn't adapt to it. Ning Shu looked at this world of samsara and couldn't help but be stunned. This was too crowded. Her few worlds of samsara were more relaxed. But in this world of samsara, the sky and earth were squeezed with souls. It was as if a bus was filled with people and the bus was about to explode. Ning Shu sucked in a cold breath. How many souls were squeezed together? How many worlds were connected to this world of samsara? How terrifying! Could it be that these souls didn't jump into the rebirth pool? Ning Shu came to the rebirth pool and saw a dense number of souls jumping in like dumplings. These souls jumped into the rebirth pool. The rebirth pool didn't have a way to deal with them. Many souls were still swimming in the rebirth pool. This meant that some souls were reborn. But this world was still so crowded. If this continued, Ning Shu felt that the world of samsara wouldn't be able to take it anymore. Some of the souls were still biting each other, absorbing the soul power of the other party into their own bodies. It was a mess. There were so many souls. Where was she going to find second brother? Ning Shu shuttled through these souls. Even if they collided with each other, it didn't matter much. But Ning Shu still felt that it was too crowded. He released his mental energy to search. He didn't know what second brother's soul looked like after he died. Was it a plate or a skinny person? No, only fats would increase. Souls wouldn't increase for no reason. Instead, because of the 7 emotions and 6 desires, it would weaken the soul. Second brother should be a skinny person now. When he was alive, he was a big fat person. After he died, he got his wish to lose weight. If he wasn't so fat, maybe second brother would be like big brother and still be alive. There were souls everywhere. They moved towards the rebirth pool. The closer they were to the rebirth pool, the more crowded it became. Ning Shu felt that purifying so many souls had exceeded its capacity. Sooner or later, the rebirth pool would go on strike. The core of a world of samsara was the rebirth pool. If the rebirth pool lost its function, then the world of samsara would be useless. The rebirth pool in this world didn't even need to create a beautiful mirage. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3757. There was no need to try so hard to attract these souls to jump into the reincarnation pool. If the reincarnation pool could talk, it would probably roar, "Get lost. I can't take it." Ning Shu finally squeezed out of the crowded area around the reincarnation pool. He searched for a long time but still couldn't find his second brother. Did he jump into the reincarnation pool? Ning Shu sat on the black stone and watched the souls come and go. Ning Shu continued to search and met a man who looked like his younger brother. He shuttled among the souls and saw a female soul. He had to go up and take a look. When he saw that it wasn't the person he was looking for, he looked disappointed. Then he went back to searching. Ning Shu walked over and called out tentatively, "Second brother." Mainly because he had never seen his second brother so thin and handsome. He didn't dare to recognize him. The second brother stared at Ning Shu and shook his head. He walked past Ning Shu and started to search again. Ning Shu caught up with him and shouted, "Second brother, I'm Ning Shu." The second brother was a little confused. "Who is Ning Shu?" Ning Shu said, "Do you know who you are?" The second brother said, "I'm me." Ning Shu said, "I'm Ning Shu. You died young because of illness, but you're immortal, sister." The second brother thought for a while and suddenly realized, "Oh, it's you. You're also in this world. Have you seen your second sister-in-law?" Ning Shu realized that his second brother was looking for his second sister-in-law. He said, "I haven't seen her." The young and handsome second brother sighed. "Alas, I can't find her." Ning Shu said, "Second brother, why do you have to find her?" It was really difficult to find a soul in the world of samsara. Moreover, it was so crowded here. The world of samsara was also very dangerous. These souls often tore each other apart just to strengthen their own souls. Even if he jumped into the rebirth pool and had a portion of his soul power taken away, his soul power would still be stronger and he could be reborn as a higher level creature. If those with weak souls jumped into the rebirth pool, they might end up as worms that lived in the spring and died in the winter. Perhaps second sister-in-law did not jump into the reincarnation pool, but was swallowed by another soul. The second brother said, "Of course it's to find her and jump into the life pool hand in hand. We'll be together again in the next life." The corners of Ning Shu's mouth twitched. He was actually speechless. If you're still together in the next life, aren't you afraid that heir sister-in-law will feed you fat again? Moreover, these two people might be reincarnated as humans. Do you want to have a love that transcends species? Even if they were both humans, what if they were of the same sex? Well, that didn't seem to be a problem. Being of the same sex was probably true love. If second sister-in-law had already jumped into the reincarnation pool, she might have already grown up. The age difference would be very big. And it seemed like age was not a problem. Gender, age, and nationality weren't a problem. The biggest problem was that they might not even be born in the same world. Clearly, this world of reincarnation wasn't just connected to two worlds. As for which world they would enter, it was completely random. To enter the same world, the probability of two people meeting again was so small that it was almost negligible. It could be called a miracle. The more Ning Shu thought about it, the more spirited his expression became. He said, "Maybe second sister-in-law has already jumped into the reincarnation pool." "That's not it. When she died, I repeatedly told her to wait for me." Ning Shu was speechless. She said no. "The next time I'm a woman and she's a man, I'll feed her fat." The second brother said. Ning Shu wanted to kneel down and beat the ground to vent his anger. Was second brother doing this for love or revenge? What if the person who was fed fat was still second brother? Moreover, second brother's concept was a little strange. Why did he have to become a woman to feed his partner? No, why did he have to feed his partner until she became fat? He was speechless. Ning Shu's expression was a little lifeless. He asked, "How long have you been looking for her?" Big brother was a steady person. Why was second brother like this? It was probably because big brother had more responsibilities on his shoulders. Second brother's life was more carefree than big brother's. "I started looking for her the moment I came to this world." "Where did she run off to?" "She's really courting death." The second brother sighed. For some reason, Ning Shu didn't sympathize with him at all. Ning Shu consoled him, "Second brother, your relationship as husband and wife will probably only last for this lifetime. Don't force it and don't be too stubborn. Otherwise, you won't be able to reincarnate. Who knows, maybe there will be an additional surprise." The reincarnation pool couldn't allow souls with stubborn thoughts to reincarnate. Moreover, from a certain perspective, these stubborn souls were harmful to the world of reincarnation. Those skeletons were stubborn souls that wandered in the world of reincarnation. Most probably, even the abyssal prefect would eat them. Although one or two wouldn't matter, eating too many would cause diarrhea. Ning Shu felt that the abyssal prefect was quite smart. He used the method of creating skeletons to solve the problem of stubborn souls. The damage to the world would be less. Secondly, he nurtured a group of existences to manage the world of reincarnation. Even during a war, he could pull them to the battlefield. It could be said that he was killing several birds with one stone. Unfortunately, the success rate wasn't high. Moreover, the process was too painful. Some souls couldn't take it and dissipated. Souls with strong obsessions would not be able to withstand it, so ordinary souls would be instantly annihilated. Second brother Ning sighed. "But we already agreed." Ning Shu didn't want to discuss this topic. He repeated what he asked big brother to second brother. After second brother Ning heard this, he paused for a moment and asked, "Can you help me find your second sister-in-law?" Ning Shu's face was numb. "No." Second brother Ning shook his head. "Then forget it. I'm working so hard and still can't fulfill my wish. I'm not doing it." Ning Shu had already been rejected once. After being rejected again, his heart was as still as water. Everyone had their own life. This couldn't be forced. Walking the path one didn't like and doing things one didn't like was probably a painful thing. Just like what Big Brother said, there was no end in sight. It was quite despairing. Since second brother wasn't willing to walk the same path as her, Ning Shu felt that he had to kick second brother into the reincarnation pool. He couldn't let him go on like this. Sooner or later, he would become a stubborn soul and be dealt with by others. He would either become a skeleton or be annihilated. He wouldn't be a burden to the world of reincarnation. This kind of stubborn soul was, to some extent, a bug. A negative bug. Although stubborn souls were rare, as humans, they more or less had regrets and stubbornness. Some people weren't obvious, while others were very obvious. Second brother Ning, are you married? Ning Shu. Second brother Ning, then do you have a girlfriend? Ning Shu. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3758. Ning Shu felt that out of the two brothers in the family, only his second brother's words were especially annoying. Damn it. Ning Shu said, "I'm not married, I don't have a partner." Second brother said, "Oh, Do you have a romantic partner? Ning Shu said. Don't have one. Second brother slapped his thigh. Then what are you doing every day? You've become prettier now, but you still can't find anyone? I'm working hard, Ning Shu said. Second brother sighed. As he walked, he tugged at the female soul. When he saw that it wasn't the person he was looking for, he immediately looked away. Other than this, don't you have any other entertainment activities? Yes, I have to solve the problem of survival. Then I have to enrich the spiritual world. A sharp sword was hanging above his head. He didn't know when it would fall. It was really frightening. Second brother said, the problem of survival. Actually, everyone has to die. Just because you're going to die sooner or later, you don't fight, don't work, don't live and don't enjoy life. Although you're a soul and can't enjoy the physical body, the spirit is better than the physical body. The spiritual world is the most important thing. You can't give up eating for fear of choking. Find someone to enjoy. Ning Shu was expressionless. I can't just find someone randomly. Randomly find someone to have a spiritual relationship with. I haven't met anyone I like. If he insisted on dragging someone when the time came, it would cause a mess. It would be intoxicating to be entangled. Some people like to be lively, while others like to be alone. They had different personalities and were colorful. That's true. It takes a long time to adjust your three views. Second brother sighed. Before I met your second sister-in-law, I was a gentleman. After I met your second sister-in-law, I became a wretched fat man. Women change men. I must fatten her up. Ning Shu didn't want to listen. He said, Second brother, stop looking. I'm afraid that after a long time, you'll become a stubborn soul and get cleaned up. What if there was a bug? What else could he do? He had to clean it up. The stubborn souls in the world of reincarnation were actually the same as the resentful souls in the living world. It was just that one was in the living world, while the other was in the world of reincarnation. There were task enforcers in the world of living to help to clear it, so the world of samsara would definitely do the same. And as time passed, Ning Shu was afraid that his second brother would become a wandering soul without any consciousness. He would only want to find someone, and he might not even remember who that person was. If you can't reincarnate, how can you look for second sister-in-law? Second brother hesitated for a moment. Why don't I jump in now? But what if your second sister-in-law is still in this world? Ning Shu, what if second sister-in-law has already jumped? Maybe she has already grown up? It wasn't easy for two people to meet each other. They had to twist their necks and look back continuously in order to meet each other in this life. Second brother, I'm so fucking desperate. Second brother, who was squatting on the ground and cowering, was described as weak, helpless, and gluttonous. Ning Shu said, Second brother, do you want to become a mission enforcer? If you become a mission enforcer, you won't become a bug and you can still find second sister-in-law. Second brother looked at Ning Shu expressionlessly. Are you my sister? Ning Shu. Why am I not your biological sister? Second brother, you're pushing me into the fire pit. Ning Shu, meow? Second brother said, I'm going to become a task enforcer. According to what you said, I have to keep doing tasks. If the quantity and quality of the tasks are not up to standard, I'll be dead. Not to mention looking for your second sister-in-law, I'll disappear into thin air. Even if I didn't look for your second sister-in-law, I wouldn't do this. Second brother said, with the number of missions, I don't have time to look for your second sister-in-law. Maybe when I'm working, your second sister-in-law has reincarnated many times. Perhaps because of the constant reincarnation, the soul will be constantly consumed, and it won't be able to transform into a human anymore. Will I be able to find a random cat or dog? Not to mention meeting one while doing tasks. That's complete nonsense. It's even more unreliable than looking for someone in this world. Second brother said, although I don't know how unlucky you were to be chosen, don't drag me down with you. Ning Shu, second brother was much more direct than big brother. At least big brother wouldn't say anything about unlucky. Ning Shu muttered softly, but second brother, I've become stronger. Oh, second brother said with a puzzled expression. So, Ning Shu muttered even more softly, I'm immortal. Second brother, and then? Your so-called immortality is based on the fact that you can complete the tasks. Only those who are still alive have the right to speak. Those who have disappeared into thin air won't be remembered. No matter what kind of world it is, it follows this principle. Your so-called strength is just a level. Once you skip this level, there's another level above it. It's like climbing a building. He could only say that he wanted to explore a richer and more powerful world. He wasn't interested in exploring. I don't want to suffer so much. How wide is the world? How vast is the world? What's beyond the heavens? If I don't know, I won't think about it. Ants built nests to look for food. They didn't know that there were humans, but humans knew how to enjoy themselves, how to learn, and have 7 emotions and 6 desires. You're not a fish. How can you know how happy a fish is? Just like the living creatures in the plane. Do they know that there are planes outside the plane? Do they know that the plane was born from the sea of laws? They didn't know. Ning Shu's voice was almost inaudible. In our line of work, we protect the plane. Second brother, what are you talking about? As long as you're happy. Just like us doing business, Big Brother and I still support so many employees. We're also very noble. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Will you die if you don't argue? Second brother, yes, you know it. Don't argue about it. There's a cause before there's an effect. It's not that the cause comes after the effect. The cause and effect are reversed. Are you doing missions to protect the plane or to live for yourself? Ning Shu, to live for myself. But I can't deny that the result is that the plane is protected. Second brother, why do you have to protect the plane? According to you ants, we ants are worthless. Ning Shu, to protect the sea of laws. Second brother, what's the purpose of protecting the sea of laws? Ning Shu, firstly, the sea of laws is the source of some people's power. Secondly, the plane is born from the sea of laws. Protecting the sea of laws is protecting the source of power, protecting the plane. Second brother, there's nothing wrong with using the power of the plane to protect the sea of laws, right? It's like doing business. Using people to create value to earn money, and then giving the other party a salary. Of course, there were definitely people who benefited. It was just a matter of how much they benefited. There was a clear hierarchy. Second brother Ning nodded. If that's the case, then why are you so moved by yourself? Do you think you're so noble? Chapter 3759. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and retorted, who the fuck is moved by myself? As your sister, I'm looking for a job for you. Of course, I have to describe the future prospects and significance of the job, understand? Second brother Ning was suddenly a little scared. If you want to talk about work, just talk about work. Benefits are the most important thing. No matter how much I talk about it, it's all fake. I haven't seen many benefits, but all kinds of rules and regulations are tyrannical. The word death was mentioned so often. It was simply a high-risk job. It was too scary. As an ordinary person, second brother Ning couldn't bear it. Second brother Ning thought that people with a bit of brains would not take the initiative to become task takers. If they were forced to be chosen, they could only blame it on their bad luck. He Qing, who took the initiative to become a task taker, she did all kinds of immoral things just to become a task taker. Second brother sighed. Your stupid sister-in-law is nowhere to be found. She must not have taken my words seriously. Should I jump or not? Ning Shu smiled and said, Second brother, let's leave it to fate. If it's really fate, you will meet her. There was really no other way except for this. Ning Shu said, Second brother, I'll accompany you for a while. With spiritual power, they should be able to find faster. She would not ask second brother to become a task taker again. Big brother and second brother were both businessmen. Probably from the perspective of mutual benefit, this was not a cost-effective business. Maybe they were used to being bosses and didn't want to be a miserable worker. He might as well start a new life. That would be wonderful. Ning Shu felt that second brother Ning was poisonous, which made him feel like he was in a fire pit and was being roasted by fire. Ning Shu helped to find. He was afraid that second brother would keep looking like this and become a negative bug. With spiritual power, Ning Shu's spiritual power could scan a large area. He was not like second brother who ran over to take a look when he saw a similar female soul. Ning Shu pulled second brother and said, "There is no one similar to second sister-in-law in this area. Let's go to another place." Second brother Ning looked at Ning Shu in shock. I can tell at a glance. Ning Shu's face was expressionless. "So, I'm strong." Second brother Ning shut up at once and dared not to speak. He was dragged around by Ning Shu. In the end, he found a soul that had curled up into a ball behind a black rock. This soul was relatively weak and had curled up into a ball. It looked very scared. Ning Shu pointed over there. "Isn't that second sister-in-law?" Ning Shu just felt a little familiar, so he asked second brother Ning. When Ning Shu saw the soul, he immediately jumped up and ran towards it like a firecracker. "Silly woman." Second sister-in-law Ning saw a soul. She probably didn't recognize that this was her husband. After all, she had faced a dead fatty for decades. Looking at such a slender person, no one would think that this was her dead husband. She immediately screamed, "Don't come over or I'll swallow you." Second brother Ning answered, "It's me. It's me." But second sister-in-law Ning's reaction, how to put it, was very unexpected. After confirming that this was her dead husband, her expression was like being struck by lightning. "Why are you so thin?" Ning Shu was speechless. Second brother Ning's expression was also a bit cracked. Previously, he just wanted to find his wife. When he saw her, he thought of the fear of being dominated by second sister-in-law Ning. Now he wanted to run away. When the two met, they didn't cry in each other's arms. This scene made Ning Shu sigh. Second brother was probably sick from being abused. After finding the person, second brother took second sister-in-law to jump into the reincarnation pool. While walking towards the reincarnation pool, second brother Ning asked Ning Shu with a flattering face, "Little sister, is there anything else that can connect us so that we can be together in the next life?" Second sister-in-law Ning was expressionless. "Did I say that I want to be with you in the next life? I can't stand you in this life. And in the next life, little sister, don't give me anything. Don't take it out if you have something." Second brother Ning was melancholy. "Then what if I find the wrong person? If I marry another woman, won't you be my mistress if you appear again?" One by one, Jing Fu appeared above Ning Shu's head. He really wanted to kick each of them directly into the reincarnation pool. "Please, you can do whatever you want." Second brother Ning asked seriously, "Do you have this thing, little sister?" Ning Shu frowned. "Do you really want this thing?" Second brother Ning suddenly became excited. "Do you really have this thing?" Ning Shu didn't have the strength to complain. The point is not whether you have this thing or not, but whether you want to be together forever. Tied together forever, not with other people or in love with each other. Life was about different paths and different choices. In fact, tied together like this, it was easy to form a resentful couple. It was sad enough to face one person in one's life, but they had to live together forever. Second brother Ning said, "Why not? And when you're reborn, you'll become a different person. You'll be completely different from this life." Ning Shu said faintly, "Yes, what if one of them becomes a bad person, but because they're tied together, they can't get rid of it? Set yourself in a box, and if you didn't treat me well in the previous life, maybe I'll treat you badly in the next life. The cycle repeats, and even a good couple will become a resentful couple. What the fuck is this?" Speaking of love props, it's not that there are no props for love. It's called strings of affection, which can make the two parties who wear it admire each other. But when they fall in love, they don't know whether it's because of the strings of affection or because they love each other. Ning Shu was almost put on the strings of affection by Zhang Jiasen. It can be seen that that thing is actually similar to a curse. It's not from the heart, maybe it will make the people who wear it love each other more. But when people who don't love each other wear it, it's a curse and witchcraft. Why force it? Just follow your heart. Second brother Ning glanced at second sister-in-law Ning and asked, "Do you want it?" Second sister-in-law Ning shook her head. "If I can meet you in the next life, I will be with you. But if I can't, I won't be with you." Second brother Ning's heart was about to break. You don't want to be with me that much? Second sister-in-law Ning raised her hand and stroked second brother Ning's eyebrows and eyes. Her fingers passed through his soul. If I become a better person in the next life, I will not feed you fat. I still like your handsome appearance, but I'm afraid of losing you. I'd rather you become fat and stupid. I'm selfish and self-abased, dragging you down with me. She didn't become a better person. Instead, she had to pull the person she loved close to her to ease the panic in her heart. After second sister-in-law Ning finished speaking, she jumped straight into the reincarnation pool. Standing in the reincarnation pool, she smiled at second brother Ning. Gradually, the reincarnation pool covered her head and disappeared from the reincarnation pool. Second brother Ning raised his head and closed his eyes. Ning Shu stood not far away and didn't disturb second brother. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3760. Ning Shu didn't approach his second brother. He had been looking for her for so long, but in the end his wish didn't come true. From the beginning to the end, his second brother seemed to be the only one who wanted to find his second sister-in-law and jump into the reincarnation pool with her. It would be best if they could live together forever. However, the reality was a little uncomfortable. Second brother squeezed out of the crowd and sat on the ground with a sigh. Ning Shu walked over and said, "Second brother, don't be sad." "Second brother, I'm sad." Ning Shu felt that no matter how much he said, it would be easy for him to just stand there and talk, so he shut up. After a while, Ning Shu couldn't help but say, "Second brother, do you still want to continue your fate with second sister-in-law?" "Second brother, she doesn't want to. What's the point of thinking more? Forget it, let's not talk about it. Let's leave it to fate." Ning Shu coughed and began to persuade him again. He said, "Second brother, do you want to become a task enforcer?" "Second brother Ning, whether your second sister-in-law exists or not, I won't become a task enforcer. I refuse to join a pyramid scheme." Ning Shu, seeing that second brother Ning really didn't have the slightest interest in becoming a task enforcer, Ning Shu stopped persuading him to avoid being disliked. Ning Shu asked, "Do you want to go to the reincarnation pool?" Second brother Ning nodded. Ning Shu sighed and said, "The source is not good. Maybe your reincarnation world is not good either." Second brother Ning said very calmly, "If it's not good, then it's not good. Anyway, if we die together." This was something that couldn't be helped. If the world was destroyed, could one person save the world? The world was definitely going to be destroyed, just like people were definitely going to die. It just depended on when. Second brother Ning, are you crazy? Are you thinking about immortality? If a person knew that he was going to die, he would die in advance. He was going to die anyway. He had never seen someone end their life in advance because they knew they were going to die in the future. Ning Shu said, "I'm not thinking about immortality. It's just the current situation." Second brother Ning, what's the situation? You're so free that you're thinking about the destruction of the world all day. How bored could he be to think about the destruction of the world all day? If it was destruction, everyone would die together. It could only be said that they were fated to die together. Ning Shu felt that second brother Ning was more open-minded about life and death than him. Shrinking the sea of law was actually a problem of a world. If the sea of law perished, she might perish as well, perish along with the sea of law. The matters of the sea of laws were not something she could resolve, just like how a mortal could not prevent the destruction of a world. Life and death could not be reversed. Ning Shu stood up, patted the sand off his butt, and asked, "When are you leaving?" "It doesn't matter if we jump now or later. Let's jump now." Second brother also stood up, squeezed to the side of the rebirth pool, and directly jumped in. Ning Shu waved his hand. Second brother Ning said, "Don't take life and death too seriously. Ning Shu, you are very timid and live like shit. You still expect to live a long life. I'd rather live for 100 years than live cowardly for 1,000 years. The destruction of the world is death. Everyone will die eventually." Ning Shu waved his hand. Second brother Ning said, "Even if I can only live for a few years or more this time, I will still choose to reincarnate. The length of life is not the main point, the width is the main point. Ning Shu was speechless. Don't jinx it. As he said that, he flicked a bit of merit on second brother Ning. Second brother Ning said, "You have to face life and death directly, sister." As soon as he said that, second brother Ning's head was submerged. Ning Shu looked at the rebirth pool and decided to wander around this world of reincarnation to look for his parents. However, his parents had probably already gone to reincarnation. The chances of finding them were not high. He would just go with the flow. Ning Shu slowly walked around this world. As expected, he did not find his parents. They had probably already reincarnated. If they were fast, they would have already reincarnated for 2 lifetimes. Ning Shu returned to the system space and was called by Dan Qing to get fragments. Ning Shu, I can't get all the fragments. I guess I will have to clear many planes this time. Dan Qing said, after clearing the fragments, I'm afraid you will have to do tasks again. Ning Shu said, oh. Dan Qing asked in a low voice, do you have any other arrangements? If not, you should do tasks. The number of tasks has increased recently. Ning Shu said, oh, helplessly. The number has increased. Is it because there are more planes with problems, or the number of tasks I have accumulated? Dan Qing said, both. First, every task taker has competed for the number of tasks. Second, you have accumulated a lot. If he was an ordinary task taker, he would probably have been killed by now. If he couldn't even finish the task given, what was the use of having him? Maybe the organization knew that his host had to pick up fragments, deal with star stones, or have other tasks, so they were a little more relaxed. But it didn't mean that these tasks would not be done. Ning Shu saw that the place where the plane collapsed was densely packed with fragments. This time, he probably got dozens of planes. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many fragments. Ning Shu stretched out his vines and started to pick up the fragments. He looked around and saw Mo Ming. He moved over and asked, how many planes did you cut this time? Mo Ming shook his head and said, many. Ning Shu was silent for a moment. Then he asked, what about the creatures in these worlds? Did you take away all the resources? Mo Ming said, we definitely took away the resources. As for the creatures inside, we cut too many worlds, so we gave up. There aren't so many worlds for these creatures. Ning Shu said, oh. Mo Ming said coldly, there are no houses. Naturally, there is no place for them to live. Ning Shu shrugged. This was the truth. If ordinary creatures lost their planes, there was no place for them to live. Mo Ming looked at Ning Shu and asked, have you thought about joining the army? There are more people in the army, and they are more united. If you want to find someone you can cooperate with among the mission enforcers, he shook his head as he spoke. Ning Shu laughed. The thousand-hand Guanyin picked up the fragments and asked, does the organization know what you are doing? Mo Ming said, of course they know. If there is really a problem with the Sea of Law, the purpose of this organization's existence is to protect the Sea of Law. Without the Sea of Law, we are useless. Do you want to keep us and provide for us when we are old? As long as the Sea of Law exists, we will serve it honestly. If the Sea of Law doesn't exist, we will have no one to serve. Ning Shu was speechless. Why do you make it sound so dirty? Mo Ming asked, are you afraid? Actually, the organization doesn't care about these small actions. Ning Shu said, I'm not afraid. If the Sea of Law doesn't exist, what do you plan to do? Mo Ming thought for a moment and said, I'm not sure. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3761. I really can't think that far. It's probably better to form a group and find a place to live in the void. Mo Ming shook his head and said, humans are too weak, we can only unite and work together like ants. Ning Shu blinked his eyes and asked quietly, is the entire group of humans gathered together? Mo Ming shook his head. No, there are too many people in the group, and once there are too many people, their hearts will not be united. This kind of recruitment is only done in a small area. Those who are not strong enough are not qualified to join. Ning Shu replied with an "Oh." It felt like Noah's Arkansas normal mission enforcers might not even know about the situation in the Sea of Laws, and would do their missions peacefully, but those who stood below were not well informed. But they were also a part of the group that was given up. The army has a lot of rules, they listen to the command and follow orders, they are the main force, and mission enforcers are mostly loners, they do not listen to the command, so normally, a part of them would give up. Mo Ming was very realistic. It was like a company disbanded, and a person with a high reputation took away a part of the employees, and this part had to have the strength and capital to start anew. As for the employees who did not have much strength, sorry, they could not care about them, and had no obligation to care about them. If you want to join this group, you can tell me, when the living environment is bad, it's good to have a group that you can rely on. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Thank you, we'll talk about it when the time comes. The Sea of Laws will not collapse immediately." Anyway, Ning Shu felt that the people in the Sea of Laws would probably live longer than her. Mo Ming nodded. It's good to plan early. If you don't want to be restricted, you can choose not to join, but be careful. After that, many planes will be cut down one after another, which means that the situation in the Sea of Laws is not very good, and they are already being forced to give up on these planes. Now is the time to give up on the aging planes. Don't think that you can get lucky. The destruction of the Sea of Laws is inevitable. Ning Shu tied up the bag, and Mo Ming took the bag from her hand and handed it to the soldier in charge of the statistics. Ning Shu asked, "May I ask who is in this group?" Mo Ming said, "They are all self-help groups formed by some of the more powerful people. Once there is a problem with the Sea of Law, void creatures like Uncle Chang, Sang Liang, and Tai Shu will immediately give up on this group. People like us are actually very awkward. We are stronger than normal humans, but weaker than void creatures. The meaning of our existence is to protect the Sea of Law. Without the Master, we have no reason to exist. Even if we can survive for a while, everyone will not have the ability to reproduce. Every bit of energy we expend is a bit less. We are just waiting for death. The number of people will only decrease, not increase." Ning Shu understood that if the Sea of Law was no longer there, then the Tai Shu would officially enter a period of weakness, and he would not even be able to protect himself. The people from the organization would no longer care about him. If the company went bankrupt, they still had to keep the employees. Were they going to give the employees a pension? How was that possible? This self-rescue group sounded pretty good. With the addition of the army and a portion of the powerful mission enforcers, they might still stand a chance against the void creatures. Ning Shu asked, "How many people are there now?" Mo Ming said, "There are a lot of people." He frowned. "It's fine if we're alive, but I'm afraid we can't." Ning Shu was surprised and asked, "Why do you think so?" Mo Ming shook his head. "It's nothing, I'm just thinking about it and speculating in my heart. If a person is about to die and has property like pigs, dogs, cows, and sheep, what would you do with it? If there's a next generation, leave it to the next generation. If there's no next generation, kill it and eat it." Burp. Ning Shu burped and looked at Mo Ming with wide eyes. "We're actually just animals raised in captivity. Don't have too many expectations." Mo Ming patted Ning Shu's shoulder and looked at Ning Shu in a daze. "Don't talk about equal lives. You're talking about these things with pigs, dogs, cows, and sheep. The hierarchy of species is there. Even if they look the same as humans, they're actually different." Ning Shu patted his chest. "What you said is a little scary." Mo Ming said, "I'm just preparing for the worst. Maybe the Sea of Laws doesn't exist anymore, and we won't exist anymore. Perishing together with the Sea of Laws is also our mission. Our mission has ended." Ning Shu was speechless. So it wasn't that he didn't have a sense of security, many people didn't have a sense of security either. Ning Shu said embarrassedly, "Maybe I'm thinking too much. Since we're here, let's take it easy." Mo Ming shook his head. "You have to think of the worst-case scenario. If we can survive, it's fine, but if we can't, we can only perish together with the Sea of Laws. And I have to be careful of one thing." Ning Shu said, "What's the matter?" Mo Ming said coldly, "We're here in a group to make a ruckus, and the people in the organization are like emperors, sitting high up and looking down at us." Ning Shu said, It's quite scary for you to say it like that. It was like a grasshopper jumping around after autumn. I'll just watch you guys make a ruckus. Ning Shu coughed and extended out more vines to pick up the debris, in case someone said that he was slacking off. Ning Shu said, whether it's grasshopper after autumn, or when the time comes, they will let us go. In fact, these are all just our thoughts. These things have not happened yet, and no one knows what will happen in the future. In fact, their living environment was not very good. It was easy to die when doing missions, and it was easy to die when not completing missions. As soldiers, once there was a war or something happened to the plane, it was easy to die. In such a high-pressure environment, it was indeed very tiring sometimes. Ning Shu suddenly realized that they were facing another problem, and that was, if something happened to the Sea of Laws, they would also die along with the Sea of Laws. A Western-style 9 generations death sentence. Ning Shu looked at Mo Ming from the corner of his eyes. You've succeeded in making me panic. Mo Ming laughed. It's fine, think about it yourself. Think about what we are to the organization, and what use we have to the organization. The worst result is that we'll be buried with the Sea of Laws. So many planes have collapsed and the living beings no longer exist, but we, who were born in the planes, are still alive. No matter how you look at it, it doesn't seem right. It's best if we can live, but if we can't, then we'll be annihilated. For example, right now, many living beings in the planes have been annihilated, and they've been annihilated along with the planes. The difference is that they don't know, and in an instant, they've been annihilated without even feeling any pain. But we know, and we're afraid of the pain and death that's coming. Ning Shu, if that's the case, I'll choose to be like the living beings in the planes, and die without knowing. Ning Shu, why the fuck am I talking to you for no reason? To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3762. Ning Shu covered her ears. I'm not listening, I'm not listening, I'm not listening, I'm not listening. Originally, even if something really happened to the Sea of Law, her life would probably be very difficult. But now, it seemed that it would definitely be difficult, and more importantly, she would be treated like a useless piece of trash. Even if the company went bankrupt, the assets and props would be dealt with. Of course, she could not rule out the possibility that Mo Ming was just scaring her to let her know. Ning Shu, I know very well. She could not say that she was thinking too much, she could only say that she was taking precautions, but it was useless, they could not beat her. She could only pray that the ancestor of the Sea of Law could hold on for a while longer. Without the Sea of Law, she would die with the Sea of Law. She could only live as long as she could, it was useless to think so much now. Ning Shu asked Mo Ming, did you let me in through the back door? Actually, I don't have the qualifications to enter your self-help group. She did not even know about such a secretive thing. She could freely choose from the small group, looking for things that were trustworthy. Mo Ming, it's good that you know it in your heart, why are you saying it out loud? This is not called going through the back door, it's called helping each other. Ning Shu nodded. Yes, helping each other. Thinking about it carefully, it was reasonable that those people did not look for her. She was usually alone and did not have much interaction with those people. It was probably because these people did not understand her, and secondly, if they casually recruited people, it might affect the group. It was necessary to be cautious. Ning Shu did not think of joining the group. Since she had joined, she had to contribute to the group. This was her duty and responsibility. But Ning Shu would not join this group. She thanked Mo Ming. Mo Ming could have ignored her completely. Saying these things was also a kind of friendship. Mo Ming nodded and said, that's true, when the time comes, we still don't know what will happen, it's useless to think too much. He thought for a while and said, I've heard some things about you, I heard that you are not very obedient. Ning Shu shrugged his shoulders and said, if it's just a small fight or a slap in the face, they're not very obedient. Sometimes there's no way around it. There are conflicts. Mo Ming sighed and said, it's not easy for everyone. If you want to fight for something, you have to be so embarrassed. If someone sends something to me, I'm willing to be a pure and untainted person who stands aloof from worldly affairs. Where there were people, there would be jianghu. Where there were people, there would be conflicts of interest. It would be strange if such a large organization was harmonious and all of its members were gentlemen. Even if there were a few people in a family, everyone's personality was different. Mo Ming said, "When you fight for something, fight for it. Don't make yourself suffer in the end. That would be putting the cart before the horse." Ning Shu smiled and asked, "What would you do if you encountered such a situation?" Mo Ming, "Of course I'll write it down in a small notebook." Ning Shu, and then? Just write it down? Mo Ming, "I can't get back at them now, but I won't allow myself to not get back at them in the future. I'm a very petty person. If they provoke me, I'll take revenge." Ning Shu, "You're no longer the adorable and weak Mo Ming." Someone came to call Mo Ming. Mo Ming told Ning Shu that he was busy and left. He even gave Ning Shu a contact number. Obviously, Mo Ming still remembered their encounter. He probably felt that Ning Shu was weak, helpless, and pitiful, so he planned to squeeze him in through the back door. In the future, the Sea of Law would no longer be a problem for survival. Ning Shu appreciated his kind intentions. As for whether he could enter or not, he would probably have to disappoint Mo Ming. Ning Shu felt that even if they did not die with the Sea of Law, they would become existences with nothing to do. They could move around in the void, but their strength was not enough. If they hid in a place, what could they do? They had nothing to do. Soul bodies did not need to eat to fill their stomachs. When there were many people, their thoughts would be complicated. Then the collapse of this group would happen sooner or later. After experiencing the high-pressure environment of the organization, to suddenly have nothing to do, the emptiness in one's heart would probably drive one crazy. They were already used to such a life. Even if the environment did not look good, and second brother Ning did not even want to enter, the people inside were used to it. It was the only way to survive. Ning Shu felt that rather than Mo Ming following this group, it would be better to form a team with her. If there were few people, they could talk things out. But if there were many people, they would not have the time to care about what everyone thought. This was not realistic at all. And who among these big shots would be the leader? This group did not seem to have a good future, but it might just be a temporary group. After the early stage, everyone would play their own game. Ning Shu felt that he could reverse the situation and trick Mo Ming to his side. Maybe he could also form a self-help group and recruit 2 or 3 trustworthy companions. He did not intend to find many people. Actually, their lives still needed to beg for the mercy of the organization. Maybe they could survive. Just like slaves in ancient times, depending on the master's intentions, it felt like if the master wanted his subjects to die, they had no choice but to die. After all, the person who ruled them had absolute strength. Ning Shu felt that he had been tricked too deeply. The organization's plan was probably to take the longest path. Building a world could make one immortal, Mies. Then, comprehending the rules and laws could make one valuable. One could not die, Mies. After comprehending the will of death, one might not die, Mies. Death is the wind, always by my side. Ning Shu did not blame the organization, but they did not have longevity. Even Jun Sangliang of the Taishu residence did not have longevity. Ning Shu counted the number of people he knew in his heart. He planned to form an organization and debut in the center. But the people he knew, the man in the Cheongsam was too Buddhist. His strength was stagnant. He drank wine and flirted with women in his own restaurant. As for Mei Ziqing, she was long gone. Liren. He was in his 2nd year of middle school. He was still a tyrant even if he did not have money. But there was Ah Wan. She was pretty, strong, and a good person. This young lady could be considered. As for the others, well, he could not think of them for now. It seemed that he had to get in touch with more people and understand them. Perhaps he could find like-minded people. Ziyu could not close her eyes. Ning Shu did not intend to make himself suffer and insisted on socializing. Previously, he was busy doing missions and doing things. After all, he was no longer alive. How could he have time to socialize? Small mission takers could not come into contact with any powerful people. It was better to do missions than to socialize. With this time, he might as well go for a stroll in the void and find something to sweeten his mouth. Or he might as well find something to change his physique. If not, he might as well draw a map. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3763. Although the Emperor Granary was a scam, if she could find it, she would not reject it. Then she would look for other things that could change her physique. This kind of soul was too fragile and could not withstand it. This was a hard wound. I wonder if the void creatures have souls. Ning Shu suddenly felt a little curious. After the creatures in the void died, did their souls have to enter a special place? Just like how the world of living corresponded to the world of reincarnation? However, he still felt that the void creatures were different from ordinary creatures. Maybe they could not be reincarnated at all. After all, the void creatures lived for a long time. If they could reincarnate and live for a long time, it would be too unique. It was as if they were being punished and turned into energy to return to the void. When Fa Tian came back, he would ask Fa Tian. Ning Shu picked up some unknown fragments and returned to the system space to do missions. When he saw Fa Tian and Little Mouse, he immediately asked, "Why are you back?" Fa Tian's expression was a little unnatural, but he still said, "It's the holidays, so I came back to take a look." Ning Shu asked with interest, "How's the Holy Land?" Little Mouse, "Very generous." Fa Tian's expression was a little complicated. "It's okay." Ning Shu, "Then when are you going back? What did you learn?" Tian, "In a few days I'll go back." "What did I learn?" "Release my nature." Ning Shu, "What? What the hell was release nature?" He understood, but he did not understand this consciousness. The education of the void was really high-end. Ning Shu asked, "Do you void creatures have souls? Is there a next life?" Fa Tian shook his head. "No, it shouldn't be called a soul but a consciousness. If the consciousness doesn't exist, then it doesn't exist. Then the body will be annihilated. Of course, the weakening of the body will also affect the weakening of the consciousness. You humans have a short lifespan. Those with strong souls can reincarnate 10 times, which is thousands of years. We only have one life, so there's no difference." Ning Shu shrugged. After reincarnating, it was equivalent to being a different person and starting over. "I wonder if I can enter the Holy Land to take a look." Ning Shu sighed. Most likely he wouldn't be able to enter. Fa Tian's expression was very numb. He changed the topic and said, "I finished my jerky." Ning Shu said, "You've already finished such a big bird. How long has it been since you left?" "Wasn't this too fast?" Little Mouse said, "Fa Tian is the child of wealth in the cub shelter. Many people come to ask him for jerky." Ning Shu said, "Then make some more. Make 2 more birds this time. With such a big appetite, 1 bird will be enough to finish it." Fa Tian, "They all eat spicy food. They eat whatever they can get their hands on." They still came back to ask for more after he asked for it once, but some of them were exchanging things with him. Fa Tian took out the mess in space. "This is all the things I exchanged. See if there's anything you need." Ning Shu, "I exchanged them with jerky. They're not bad." Ning Shu poured out the things inside. There were all kinds of things, metals, dried fruits, and jerky. However, the jerky was black and he didn't know what kind of meat it was. There was also a strong fishy smell. Ning Shu was surprised and tilted his head back. The smell was too strong. What kind of meat was this? Ning Shu poked at the messy things. There was a branch. The branch was full of vicissitudes and there were mysterious patterns on it. The feeling of holding it in his hand was very different. Ning Shu asked Tian, "What tree branch is this?" Tian took a look and said, "I asked. This is the sacred tree." Fa Tian knew that Ning Shu would like this. This thing was exchanged for half of the jerky. There are divine patterns on this tree. It contains the will and power of the void. Every race has their own unique power and skills, but if they want to pursue other powers, they will try to understand the will on the sacred tree. For example, your will of death is actually a kind of will. There are other wills and divine patterns. The creatures in the void can also use divine patterns. They can draw complete divine patterns and destroy their enemies with a raise of their hand. Divine patterns can be inlaid on weapons or directly on their body. However, divine patterns can't be obtained just because you want to. This is what I learned when I was a cub. Normal races can't use divine patterns. They can't even come into contact with this kind of power. It's probably the power of the origin. Ning Shu was very surprised. How mysterious, the void. Humans were the favored children of the heavens. In fact, the creatures in the void were the ones who were favored. Ning Shu stared at the branch. There was a faint luster on the branch. It was fine and looked like cloud patterns. It was dazzling and looked very mysterious. Ning Shu coughed and asked, "How much power does this divine pattern have?" Fation was silent for a while and said, "If it's a destructive divine pattern, the soul of your organization can be destroyed instantly. Especially the weak ones, they will be destroyed instantly. However, the creatures in the void won't be destroyed instantly." Ning Shu asked again, "Who do you think has a divine pattern among the creatures in our organization?" Fation glanced at Ning Shu from the corner of his eyes. "Why don't you just ask Grand Uncle if he has any divine inscriptions?" Ning Shu nodded. After all, they had disagreements. Know yourself and know your enemy. Grand Uncle's life was always a threat to her. Fation thought for a while and said, "He definitely has one. I guess it's more of a support type. After all, he already has the strong power provided by the Law C. He must have comprehended a divine pattern. Don't take any chances." Ning Shu said, "Maybe he even has a destructive support-type divine pattern." Ning Shu looked at Fation and said, "Why don't I give you a divine pattern? It can make you stronger." He wanted to carve the divine pattern on his body. Fation shook his head. "Let's talk about it later. It's very difficult to comprehend a divine pattern. You can't even draw a single pattern. Even if you draw it, you won't be able to do it." Ning Shu was speechless. "Just looking at this branch makes my head hurt. Indeed, I should go out for a walk." Now that Fation went to the sacred land, he knew so many things. "I want to go too." Ning Shu solemnly put away the branch and asked, "What divine pattern is this?" "I don't know. I haven't comprehended it yet. No one knows what this divine pattern is used for. A different pattern might cause the divine pattern to have different effects. The more complete the divine pattern, the more powerful it is." Ning Shu thought. "Can I use the divine pattern to change my constitution?" The divine pattern is a kind of power, but it can't turn a pig into a person. You should think of another way. Ning Shu was speechless. So, what method should he use? There was no way. He couldn't even find the direction to work hard. It was worrying. Ning Shu said, "The most important thing now is to catch birds and make jerky. Make more this time." To view the new chapter of ZUI, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3765. In order to go to the Holy Land as soon as possible, Ning Shu sped up the work in his hands and made the jerky as soon as possible. Ning Shu asked Little Mouse to take out the baby in its stomach and help. "Little Mouse, this also needs energy, okay?" Ning Shu looked at it silently. "Okay." Little Mouse released the subordinates that had split from before and helped to deal with it. After these things were done, they still had to deal with some dirty things. This should be able to last a little longer. Ning Shu felt that his whole body was spicy. Fation wasn't sure. Probably. It's worth it to use jerky to exchange for something. After packing up and washing away the smell on his body, Ning Shu said, "Then let's go to the Holy Land now." The moving Holy Land. This time, they didn't know where it was. Little Mouse asked, "What about me?" "I'm going to find Li Wen. Can you wait?" "Ning Shu, you go and see Li Wen. We'll go to the Holy Land." Little Mouse, "Then I want to go too. Next time, I'll go and see Li Wen." "Ning Shu, you're not the Little Mouse of the past. Li Wen was clearly more important. In the past, he was thinking about Li Wen. Now, in order to go to the Holy Land, he didn't want to see Li Wen." Ning Shu felt that Little Mouse was starting to have his own life. In the past, he could only be by Li Wen's side and didn't know anyone else. Now that he knew one or two people and could go to the Holy Land, Li Wen's weight in his heart was not as heavy as before. On the way to the Holy Land, he also found some fruits. Eating meat was easy to get constipation, so he still needed to eat fruits. This time, the location of the Holy Land was different. It was completely random and there was no fixed location. It was the most free. At the entrance of the Holy Land, Tian turned into a whip and wrapped around Ning Shu's waist. Little Mouse jumped onto Ning Shu's shoulder. Ning Shu took the wooden token and marked the spatial node on the spot so that he could find the way back. He took the wooden tablet and entered the Holy Land. Although it was called a Holy Land, it was actually very simple and primitive. However, these low stone houses were built with stones, and some of the stones even had some lines on them. Tian turned into his human form and held Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu looked at the veined patterns on the stone. The veined patterns were very deep and very thin. He didn't know what kind of tool was used to carve them. He asked, "Are these veined patterns divine runes? Otherwise, why would it be engraved on it?" Tian glanced at it. "It's a divine rune. It's a reinforcement. No matter how big the tremor is, it won't cause the house to collapse." Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "If we put these runes on a plane, wouldn't it be able to strengthen it? It could strengthen the plane." The more he thought about it, the happier he felt. Tian shook his head and said, "The plane is between life and non-life. I'm afraid it can't be strengthened. Also, I don't know what kind of damage it will do to the plane. The house is a dead object. Even if there's force acting on it, it won't have any effect. However, the plane is different." Ning Shu thought about it and agreed. If it was possible, Tai Shu Sang Liang and the others would probably put a divine rune on every plane. "Let's go to the shop," Ning Shu said. Tian didn't know what to say. "You have to be prepared." Ning Shu, okay. Tian brought Ning Shu to the commercial street. Although it was called a commercial street, it was actually quite messy. The stalls were squeezed halfway down the road, and there was only a very narrow path in the middle for people to walk. There were all kinds of things on the stalls. Anyway, they were all in a mess. As for the stall owners, they were very leisurely and carefree. It was as if they didn't want to buy it. There were a lot of things that were black and green. Anyway, it was impossible to tell what they were. As humans, they all liked to buy things that were better packaged and looked better. They really couldn't arouse the desire to buy these things. However, because of Ning Shu's existence, many people stared at Ning Shu. It felt like a pig had appeared on the street. They couldn't help but stare at the pig. It was very eye-catching. Some people even whispered witty things to each other. Ning Shu, pretending not to see these people's gazes, Ning Shu stood at a stall and looked at the things on the stall. He couldn't bear to look at them. Those who didn't have OCD were forced to come. They really wanted to help him sort out these things. Ning Shu asked the stall owner, "Is there anything that can change my physique?" "No, what do you want to change into?" the stall owner asked. Ning Shu, "Not to change into anything, but to change my soul a little." The stall owner said without thinking, "There is no such thing. Go elsewhere and ask." Then he ignored Ning Shu. Ning Shu left the stall and vaguely heard the stall owner say to the stall owner next door, "Change physique. Even a pig wants to change into one. A pig is a pig and a human is a human. This can't be changed." Tian frowned and turned to look at the stall owner. He stared at him unkindly. Ning Shu tugged at him and said, "Let's go." Little Mouse said, "It's indeed inappropriate for a weak soul like you to appear here." He didn't know how many levels lower he was. He wasn't a void creature, but a creature that lived in a small plane. To these void creatures, they could destroy a plane with a wave of their hand. Moreover, he was a weak creature that lived in a plane. Ning Shu said, "They can say whatever they want. Let's go somewhere else." Tian asked, "Do you want to eat something?" Ning Shu, "I'm really curious. What do void creatures eat?" Tian touched the messen space around his neck and said, "We have to eat something cheaper. We can't eat anything else. There aren't many energy bodies left." Ning Shu, "I'm just looking. I'm not eating." He thought that the restaurant would be more luxurious, but it turned out to be a low stone house. Many tables were placed in the open air. They sat on the ground and some food was placed on the stone table. Ning Shu sniffed and smelled something very fragrant. The fragrance was very strong and very tempting. It was so fragrant. Ning Shu's stomach was full of hunger. Ning Shu saw Tai Shu and Sang Liang sitting on the ground and eating slowly. These two actually came to the Holy Land to have a good meal. He was very suspicious. Ning Shu walked over and glanced at the food on the stone table. In a large stone bowl, there was a white soup with a strong fragrance and some very white meat. He didn't know what kind of meat it was. Ning Shu greeted, "What a coincidence. You guys are eating too." The silver-haired man said, "Why are you here?" Ning Shu, "I've always admired the Holy Land, so I came." He finally entered the city and found that he couldn't even afford a bowl of soup. It was too fragrant. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3766. Ning Shu was drooling a little. If Tai Shu and the others were polite, Ning Shu would be embarrassed to sit down and have a taste. But who were Tai Shu and Sang Liang? They didn't care about human relationships and didn't know how to be polite. They wouldn't even say something like sit down and eat together. So Ning Shu held Fa Tian's hand and stood aside. It was so awkward. However, Ning Shu was also thick-skinned. "I just watched you guys eat. I kept watching you guys eat." Eating was a small matter, but Ning Shu wanted to know why these two people had come to the city for no reason. According to the silver-haired man, who was in charge of such a large organization, if they really came to eat, it shouldn't be so frequent. There must be something else. Or it was because of the Sea of Law. What was the use of the three koi swimming in the Sea of Law? Ning Shu thought about it and asked directly, "Why are you here?" The silver-haired man and Tai Shu ignored Ning Shu. Obviously, they didn't intend to tell Ning Shu. After all, there were some things that she shouldn't know and interfere with. In other words, she wasn't qualified. If they didn't tell her, she didn't bother to ask. She just asked casually without expecting an answer. Ning Shu glanced at the meat soup on the stone table. She was a little hungry, but still held Fa Tian's hand and walked away. Fa Tian said, "Why don't we order a bowl and let each of us have a taste?" Ning Shu shook her head. "Forget it. You won't die if you don't eat it." This thing looked expensive. If they knew what kind of meat it was, they could make it themselves. Fa Tian didn't insist on buying meat for Ning Shu. Since she said she didn't want it, then she didn't want it. Moreover, she didn't have any energy body. It would be too embarrassing if she was chased by the restaurant owner for eating a free meal. Ning Shu held Fa Tian's hand and walked away. Suddenly, the table next to them made it first. The soup splashed on Ning Shu and Fa Tian. Not only the two of them suffered. Even the silver-haired man and Tai Shu's pants and shoes were splashed with soup and water. Ning Shu's first thought was, "Holy shit, it smells so good. What a waste." The two people at the next table directly kicked over the stone table. Surprisingly, the stone table didn't break, and the stone bowl that fell to the ground didn't break. Only the soup spilled on the ground. The two of them glared at each other, completely ignoring the people around them. Ning Shu looked at the senior uncle's black leather shoes that were stained with milky white juice. She felt a little gloating in her heart. The two people at the side immediately started quarreling. Judging from their voices, it was a man and a woman. However, the problem was that they had the head of a bird and the body of a human below. It was impossible to tell whether they were male or female. In the restaurant, there were some creatures that didn't exist in a willful state. Instead, they had shrunk their bodies to a normal size. There were also some with human bodies and strange heads. Quarreling as if there was no one else around made the people who were eating very unhappy. Ning Shu did not leave. He decided to observe the nature of the void creatures and how they would deal with such situations. Did anyone try to stop the quarrel? Did anyone join in the scuffle? Did it inexplicably become a big scuffle in the end? Ning Shu waited and found that the people around him did not have any reaction. They turned a deaf ear to the quarrel between the two. Obviously, they were too lazy to care. They ate and drank as they should. Sure enough, they were lazy. They didn't care about things that didn't concern them. After living for a long time, they didn't care about anything. If it were humans, they would either watch the show, try to stop the quarrel, or point fingers. Didn't the void creatures even have the heart of gossip? They looked very calm. As for the Grand Elder and the silver-haired man who were affected, their expressions were calm. They didn't seem to be angry. Ningxu? Were the void creatures all so Buddhist? They didn't want to care about things that didn't concern them. Powerful strength was given by the heavens. I don't want to use it. Go away, you should have strength. The Grand Elder looked at his shoes coldly. Looking at the two quarreling people, he grabbed a stone bowl in each hand and directly put the two stone bowls on their heads. It was simple and violent. The quarrel stopped abruptly. The two drenched chickens turned to look at the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder looked at the two coldly. The two looked a little embarrassed and then left the restaurant. Ningxu. He thought that the two would fight with the Grand Elder, but they left just like that. It was really disappointing. This batch of void creatures didn't seem to be very good. It was really worrying. Ningxu's heart ached. Two bowls fell just like that. It was quite a pity when he thought about it. After such a disturbance, the restaurant returned to its original state. The stone tables and chairs that had fallen on the ground were restored to their original state. The stone bowls on the ground also returned to the stone table. Except for the fact that there were no dishes in the bowls and the table was a little messy, everything else was no different from before. This was also the power of the divine vein. Ningxu felt that the divine vein was very magical. He came here to see the magic of the Holy Land. Probably the biggest specialty of the Holy Land was the divine vein. The divine vein could be integrated into all aspects of life. Moreover, the creatures in the void were probably all favored by the heavens. They were different and had quite a personality. They only cared about themselves and didn't care about anything else. They didn't invade each other. If they didn't fight to the death, they would probably be very Buddhist. Ningxu felt a little relieved. If all the creatures in the void had such a personality, his life in the void would probably be easier in the future. If he didn't provoke these creatures, they probably wouldn't deliberately find trouble with him, an ant. Unless he was very unlucky and met someone who was bored and poured boiling water on his ant nest. But there were Buddhist and perhaps very cruel ones. It was just that he didn't meet them. Probably these two people knew the Grand Elder and had their bowls of soup taken by him. Everyone had a temper, but they left with their tails between their legs. They knew the Grand Elder. Ningxu left with Fa Tian. Walking on the dirt road, Ningxu asked, "What was that divine vein just now? It could make a messy table and chair tidy again and not messy." Fa Tian scratched his head. "I don't know. I don't know how to explain it to you. It's probably something that has an initial state. Even if it's messed up, it will still maintain its initial state under the effect of the divine vein. That's why I saw your situation. If I have to make an analogy, it's probably like a spring. No matter if it's compressed or stretched, it will always return to its original state. But if you break the spring, then it won't work. If the table and chair are broken, then there's definitely no other way. There's more than one divine vein on it. There's definitely a reinforcement divine vein." Ningxu nodded. Divine veins were really good things. They could be used in all aspects of life. Humans developed technology and used tools. The creatures in the void also knew how to use divine veins. Ningxu felt that learning divine veins was better than learning how to make tools. From now on, learning divine veins would be his main learning task. Ningxu looked at Fa Tian and asked, "Can you accept me in the nursery of cubs?" Chapter 3767. If he entered the nursery, he might even be able to learn some divine inscriptions. Even if he couldn't learn them, as the divine inscriptions were a secret of the Saint Lands, he would still be able to understand many things. It could let her understand the nature of the creatures in the void a little. If she didn't reach that level, she couldn't understand the situation at all. Just like how ants understood the emotional communication between humans, the changes in human history, and the communication and conflicts between countries. She didn't know at all. Ning Shu could only understand some things on the surface. The two quarreling people didn't fight with Granduncle, probably because Granduncle's strength was there. If they were evenly matched, it wouldn't have ended so easily. And it would have been an insulting action. Strength was really a good thing, but he didn't have it. Those who could enter the sacred land were probably screened, and violent and troublesome races probably couldn't enter. And they probably had to have a certain level of strength. Little Mouse snorted. You want to go to the cubs to learn the sacred runes. It feels as strange as a pig wanting to learn to draw. It felt quite strange to be of a different species. Ning Shu said lightly, my pig's drawing is definitely better than yours. You're worse than a pig. The racial difference was there. Little Mouse rolled its eyes. Then you're also a pig. Ning Shu, then I'm also an exquisite pig. Don't forget, Li Wen is also a pig. Little Rat. In my heart, Pig Li Wen is different from a pig like you. Li Wen was equal in Little Mouse's heart. Even if they weren't equal, the gap wasn't very big. But Ning Shu was just a pure pig, and other humans were plankton, not worth looking at. You're already flattering yourself by being a pig. Fa Tian seriously considered the possibility of Ning Shu entering the cubs. After thinking for a while, he said to Ning Shu, although the cubs don't seem to be divided by race, they take in races from the void. The races in the void were also divided into high and low, strong and weak, but they were indeed void races. Little Mouse said directly, do you still need to think about it? It's impossible. Don't think about it. Ning Shu looked at the Little Mouse coldly. You don't have to follow Fa Tian anymore. Go back and look after Li Wen. I was the one who got this wooden plaque. Don't forget that you benefited from me. She had sold her body for this toy, not for the Little Mouse to mock and ridicule her. Ning Shu retorted sarcastically, you're also a void creature, and you're so awesome. Why can't you enter the Holy Land? Little Mouse. It immediately stopped talking and stood on Fa Tian's shoulder. It stood upright and grabbed Fa Tian's ear, afraid that Ning Shu would drag it back. She was also afraid that Fa Tian would really not bring her along. Ning Shu dissed the Little Mouse and asked, is there a rule that only void creatures are accepted? Fa Tian tilted his head and said, there's no rule, but everyone inside is a void creature. Even void creatures despise each other, not to mention how many levels there are between Ning Shu and the void creatures. Do you want to go and ask? Who knows, maybe there's education without discrimination, Fa Tian said. Fa Tian brought Ning Shu to the entrance of the nursery. Looking at the dilapidated nursery, he said, it's quite antique. Fa Tian, I don't believe you. Is antique like this? There was a very old man at the entrance. Tian shouted at him, old man, my friend wants to enter the nursery. Can she? Ning Shu dug his ears. Tian was screaming at the top of his lungs. The old man looked at Ning Shu and squinted his eyes. After a long time, he saw clearly and waved his hand. No, she's already so big. She's not a cub. Ning Shu had thought of many reasons, but he never thought that it would be such a rejection. She's not a cub anymore. No, I'm still a baby. Ning Shu felt that the time he had lived was probably not as long as some cubs. After all, compared to the long lifespan of void creatures, the lifespan of humans was too long. The lifespan of humans was too short. Naturally, their growth cycle was short. Pigs were fattened in a year, and their lifespan was only a few years. Fa Tian looked at Ning Shu regretfully. Looks like there's no way. Ning Shu said, I didn't have much hope. There was no loss in just asking. It was a surprise to be able to enter, but it was normal to not be able to enter. Even if she entered the nursery, she would probably face all kinds of strange gazes, as if they were looking at a pig. Besides, she still had work to do. Missions, picking up fragments, collecting supplies. The organization would not agree to let her come here. Ning Shu was not disappointed at all. He smelled the fragrance on his body, but it was a pity that he did not get to eat the meat. It was snow white and so fragrant. What kind of meat was it? He originally thought that the void creatures did not have a strong appetite for food. He thought that they would eat raw meat and drink blood. In the end, the food they made was still so fragrant. He wanted to eat. Ning Shu walked around the sacred land. The sacred land was not very big, and was very simple and primitive. Ning Shu stood at the exit and said to Tian, "I'm going back. You stay in the nursery and don't go back." Ning Shu knew that Fa Tian had deliberately run back. Maybe he was worried about her, or maybe he did not like the nursery. However, Ning Shu still left Fa Tian here first. It would be good for him to gain more experience. Tian waved his hand expressionlessly. Ning Shu pointed at the little mouse. "You better behave. If you cause any trouble and cause trouble for Fa Tian, don't think about coming to the sacred land again." The little mouse made an "oh" sound. After all, it was a person with no identity. If it had a wooden token, it would not have been this woman's turn to threaten it. Ning Shu waved his hand at An. "Go back to the nursery. Don't send me off. Good luck." Fa Tian said, "When we go back, I will teach you what I learned in the nursery." Ning Shu smiled. "Okay, I'll be waiting, Teacher An." After leaving the sacred land, it was a little far from the previously marked spatial node. It seemed that the sacred land moved very quickly. Ning Shu first returned to the marked location, then followed the path and returned to the location of the Sea of Law. When he passed by the Sea of Law, Ning Shu glanced at the Sea of Law. He did not know if it was an illusion, but Ning Shu felt that the Sea of Law seemed to be a lot clearer. After pausing for a moment, he walked over to take a look. It was indeed a lot clearer. He reached out his hand and scooped up a handful of water. It was pitch black before, but now it could only be said that it was a little black. It was a lot clearer than before. This purification ability was not bad. A flower koi jumped up. No, it was not a flower koi. It had turned into a black fish. Its entire body was pitch black, as if it was covered in layers of ink. This was sucking the dirty things into its body. How was this possible? The purification effect of the pear fruit race was slow. It was probably because it had to make the dirty things disappear for no reason. However, when the dirty things were transferred, the effect was very good. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3768. Speaking of which, it was in line with the conservation of energy. The koi absorbed the dirty things inside, but the things did not decrease. Instead, they went to the koi, and the effect was immediate. He did not know what kind of reward the organization gave the 3 koi that made them make such a sacrifice. After all, this kind of dirty thing was definitely harmful. Ning Shu looked at the Sea of Law for a while before returning to the system space. All kinds of methods were used to make the situation in the Sea of Law better. Back in the system space, Dan Qing said, "You're back." Ning Shu asked calmly, "Are you going to pick up fragments again?" Dan Qing said, "No, the number of missions increased again. Your backlog of missions has increased again. There are many planes with problems, and the number of missions is increasing rapidly. So, I still have to find time to do them." Dan Qing basically did not interfere with Ning Shu's matters. Other than reminding him, he could not do anything else. Besides, even if he had an opinion, he would not care about him. So Dan Qing usually did not provoke others. Ning Shu said, "Then I'll go and do the missions." He wanted to finish the work as soon as possible so that he could learn and comprehend the sacred patterns. There was no end to learning. Dan Qing exhaled. "Okay then, start doing missions. I think you can do a few more missions in a row. Once you don't do missions and have free time, you have to deal with the star stones and the like." Anyway, there was no time for him to be free, so he might as well do a few more missions. Ning Shu exchanged for some fasting pills and said, "Enter the world." Dan Qing did not say anything and sent Ning Shu into the world. When Ning Shu woke up, his head was buried in his arms and he was sleeping on the side. The tip of his nose was surrounded by disinfectant and the sour smell of sweat. The sour smell of sweat on his clothes. Ning Shu raised his head. His neck was cracking. His head was dizzy and he was very tired. Ning Shu looked at the person on the bed. It was a man who was not very old. He looked like he was in his 60s. His face was thin, but his face was a little swollen. His skin looked watery and his face was yellow. Ning Shu wanted to lie down and pretend to be asleep as he accepted the plot, but his neck was really uncomfortable. He went into the bathroom, closed the door, and began to accept the plot. The client was an ordinary woman named Chen Li-hong. She was already married and her child was already over 10 years old. He was about to enter junior high school. The client, Chen Li-hong, was also a diligent person. When she married her husband, she and her husband ran a small restaurant together. Slowly, they struggled to become a relatively famous hot pot restaurant. The business was very good, and they could make a lot of money. The client wasn't considered a serious sibling demon, but among the children of the Chen family, the client had a better life. As parents, they always wanted those who were doing well to subsidize those who were not. Even if they were already part of the Chen family, they were still children of the Chen family. The client would also use some things to keep their parents' mouths shut, losing some things in exchange for some peace and quiet. He probably thought that other people's money came from nowhere. The biggest problem was Father Chen's kidney disease. He had always had a little nephritis, but as he got older, it developed into uremia. Uremia wasn't an independent disease, but a clinical syndrome common to all kinds of advanced kidney diseases. It was swollen, and the body couldn't effectively excrete impurities, implicating all the organs. Father Chen's situation was more serious. There was no way to do kidney dialysis. He probably needed a kidney transplant. He had been in the hospital for a long time. As for the medical expenses, everyone would pay, but after a long time, the medical expenses would become a burden. The brothers and sisters, 3 daughters and 1 son, all agreed to the treatment. But the problem was, what about the money? Madame Chen was very dissatisfied with this. Not only did she want to treat her husband, if a kidney transplant could solve the problem at the root, then so be it. But a kidney transplant didn't mean a kidney was enough. Unfortunately for this family, no one was a match. But for the 4 children, this was probably a good thing. If nothing unexpected happened, if someone was a match, they would definitely fork out a kidney for Father Chen. Whether they were willing or not, it didn't matter. They just had to wait for a suitable kidney source, provided that Father Chen's health was good enough for him to undergo surgery. Father Chen's situation really wasn't good. If they delayed until a kidney source appeared, the maintenance and treatment would definitely cost money. When Madame Chen treated him, the family's money would have to be taken out, and the 3 married daughters would have to give the family a fixed amount of money. But after a long time, they would find all kinds of excuses to refuse, crying that the family didn't have money. Madame Chen scolded her children, saying that they were unfilial brats. Without your father, you wouldn't be here. Without your father, you wouldn't have grown up. Don't think that just because your daughters are married, you're part of someone else's family. Without your father, do you think you'll have a good life? You're bullied at home. Without your father, see how your in-laws bully you. Each and every one of you is so selfish that you only care about your own family and don't care about your father. If something happens to your father and he really passes away, this family will be ruined. Each and every one of you is black-hearted and selfish. In any case, nothing can happen to your father. It's not like they want your lives. If you can't even be filial, can you still be considered human? The children's faces and ears turned red at her words. In the hospital, the doctors, nurses, and the patient's family members all watched and listened. If they didn't treat him, the whole hospital would probably think that they were unfilial. Treat. Whoever didn't treat him was a bastard. Actually, Madame Chen also knew that her 2 daughters-in-laws weren't very well off. As for her own children, she raised them by her side and knew them well, and they still had to get married and have children. Her second daughter's family was the best, and customers came to the hot pot restaurant like clouds. If you ate hot pot, you definitely had to bring your family with you, not eat alone. Compared with other food, there was a lot more. Furthermore, her second son-in-law's family had bought a house and a car. There were more than 20 employees in the restaurant, and he could be considered a boss. Without her parents, who had given birth to Chen Li-hong and raised her, she wouldn't be where she was today, living in a big house and driving a small car. Without her parents, Chen Li-hong wouldn't be where she was today. Although Chen Li-hong and her husband had fought hard for these things, without her parents, would there be Chen Li-hong? Actually, Madame Chen's core philosophy was that Father Chen didn't just live for himself, but also for the family. for the children, and for the youngest son, who hadn't even started a family yet. If the married daughters didn't have support from their in-laws, they would definitely be bullied. Their lives would be miserable and they would be constantly bullied. She couldn't let this family be ruined. Father Chen's situation didn't just require money, he also needed to be taken care of in the hospital. Who knew how long that would take? To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3769. They had to wait for a suitable kidney, but it wasn't easy to wait for a kidney. While waiting for a kidney, they had to take care of their bodies so that they could accept the kidney. A kidney was still far away, and they didn't know how long they had to wait. But the money that was in front of them was already too much for their children. Everyone looked at Qin Li Hong at the same time. After all, no one had money, and Qin Li Hong's family situation was better. At this time, of course, the rich had to fork out more money. Qin Li Hong didn't say anything. After paying the full amount a few times, her husband was a little dissatisfied. They should fork out money for their father-in-law's illness, but there was no reason for them to fork out all of it. Qin Li Hong wasn't their only child, and she had to go to the hospital to take care of the elderly. Their family was running a business, so Qin Li Hong couldn't take care of the hot pot restaurant. Her husband also had to worry about the children, sending them to and from school. The rich would fork out money, and the capable would contribute. There was no reason for Qin Li Hong to do everything. Money didn't come from the wind. Even if it came from the wind, they had to bend down to pick it up. It wasn't like the wind blew the money into their pockets. Anyway, they just stared at her. Qin Li Hong's husband vaguely told his mother-in-law that they were busy at home, and there was no one to take care of the restaurant. He asked the others to help take care of it and fork out the money. Madame Qin immediately mocked him, blabbering in the hospital. She said that he was so selfish that he didn't care about his family's life for a little bit of money. That was a life. He didn't care about the elderly's life for a little bit of money. How unfilial. This was asking for a little bit of money, not your life. Without your parents, you wouldn't be where you are today. Now that you're turning your back on us, you have no conscience. There was no love and no responsibility. What about the kindness of raising you? If you can't even be filial, you're not even human. So what if you have money? You're not even human. You don't care about the lives of your family. Just hold on to your money and live your life. Qin Li Hong's husband's face fell when he mentioned it. He was afraid that if he continued, he would become a heinous sinner. It was selfish to care about one's money. Then why didn't his mother-in-law take out her own money? All these years, his wife had sent large and small amounts of money to his mother-in-law's house, but he pretended not to see it, not to mention the gifts during festivals. It was also because it had not been easy for his wife to work hard with him all these years. Since it was selfish to care about her own money, the mother-in-law should not be selfish and keep the money in her hands. Even if the father-in-law was sick now, the mother-in-law would still actively look for a wife for the brother-in-law. Perhaps his father-in-law was attending his brother-in-law's wedding while he was ill. One hat after another was placed on him, and he really couldn't handle it. Without this family, without us, you wouldn't be where you are today. It wasn't that he didn't care about his father-in-law, but that he had thrown everything over to him. If he didn't take up this responsibility, he would be a selfish person. You're not just treating one person, you're saving an entire family. You're saving several families. Without Father Qin around, everyone didn't have a good life. Without a person of virtue and prestige in charge in the family, they would be looked down upon and bullied by outsiders. After Qin Li Hong's husband was treated by his mother-in-law, he did not go to the hospital. As a result, his mother-in-law was unhappy and said that her second son-in-law was so indifferent to his father-in-law's illness. So indifferent. Qin Li Hong's husband's expression was very ugly. When I came, you dissed me. When I didn't come, you blamed me for being cold and indifferent. What do you want me to do? Cry? If I really cry, you'll say that I'm crying at a funeral. Crying before the person is dead, isn't that bad luck? Qin Li Hong's husband didn't get a good look from his mother-in-law, and her attitude toward Qin Li Hong became a little colder. She said that she had no problem with treating her parents, but she couldn't take too much money. She needed money to buy all kinds of things in the shop. Your family is like an ancestor and needs to be provided for. You have to give them money and coax them to be happy. Otherwise, you're an ingrate and have no conscience. Chen Lihong felt apologetic. She went to the shop as often as possible every day and found time to go to the hospital. She worked herself to death, but Chen Lihong's reputation in the hospital was still bad. People several wards away all knew that Chen Lihong was unfilial and ignored her old father's illness for money. Family 1. That family's daughter is too unfilial. The richer you are, the stingier you are. Family 2. That's right, that's right. On the other hand, the other siblings were forgotten. The physiognomist was reduced to a background. They all silently agreed that you had money in your hands. If you had the ability, why didn't you put in the effort? It was probably because Madame Chen chatted with other family members that she talked more about this second daughter. She talked about how this second daughter ate exotic delicacies, lived in a small bungalow, and rode in a small car. She was like a rich madam. But she didn't talk about her previous life. She and her husband ran a small restaurant. There were only the two of them in the shop, and Chen Lihong was in charge of washing the vegetables and dishes. She couldn't take care of the child, so she wrapped the child in a soft cloth and carried her on her back. In the cold winter, in the cold water, her hands got sore from the cold. She slowly worked hard to earn some capital and slowly improved. But without parents raising her, how could she have the good life she had today and how could she have the money? Actually, Chen Lihong's parents practiced the principle of producing a filial son under the rod. In addition, there were 4 children in the house. Sometimes, when a child was disobedient, a beating would be enough. To reason with them one by one was something that wouldn't necessarily be useful no matter how much effort it took. Beating them was actually for their own good. If they hadn't been taken advantage of from a young age, they would have been able to build up such a business when they grew up. These were all small matters. In the end, it all boiled over when a kidney was found. Although there were all kinds of bumps and bruises, Father Chen's condition didn't worsen. Fortunately, a kidney was found while Father Chen was still alive. The medical expenses of transplanting a kidney, as well as the various anti-rejection drugs that had to be taken afterward. Moreover, Father Chen was old, and whether he could get off the operating table was still a problem. The operation would take a long time, and the follow-up rehabilitation would also be a long process. Madame Chen gritted her teeth. Of course they had to do it. It hadn't been easy to find a kidney, and this kind of thing could only be chanced upon by luck. The children all nodded. Then let's do it. But the medical expenses were a huge sum. Her youngest son said that everyone should chip in, and his second sister should fill in the rest. The siblings' expressions weren't good as they took out the money in their pockets. Chen Lihong was practically being roasted on a rack. When she went back, she stammered as she asked her husband about the money. Her husband said very calmly, "Either you get a divorce and I'll give you alimony. Otherwise, you'll pay whatever they give you, and we won't get a divorce." He also couldn't figure it out. What should be given was never less, and he wouldn't mistreat the elderly. All these years, when business had been better, how much money had his wife taken home from home? So he had slightly more money than the other families. Was this how it should be? His money hadn't been picked up off the ground. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3770. The future was built bit by bit, and the hardest times were endured by oneself. They felt that just because they earned less, they could confidently ask others to pay more. Chen Lihong stammered and said softly, "That's my father, sigh. The alimony I gave you is enough for your medical expenses. The child will follow me and I'll give you a house." This kind of alimony was very appropriate. They had worked together when they were young and poor. The husband did not want to mistreat his wife, but he obviously did not want to have anything to do with those people. Chen Lihong definitely would not divorce. She had a deep relationship with her husband, and she also had a son. She could not bear to part with her son. Moreover, her husband was still young. If they divorced, he would definitely find another. Then she would have a stepmother and then a stepfather. Then she would have another child. Then, her child would be a pitiful cabbage at home that was not loved by his parents. This would not do. She definitely could not divorce. Moreover, Chen Lihong was not willing to divorce like this. She had lived a hard life with her husband for many years, and it had only gotten better in recent years. She could not let other women take advantage of her. How unreconciled. Chen Lihong returned to the hospital and told her mother that she could not take more money. Her husband would give her whatever the siblings gave her. Madame Chen was dumbfounded. She cried and complained that Chen Lihong was heartless. Her son-in-law only cared about money, and that they were all selfish people who watched their old father die. Ungrateful, completely forgetting their old father's kindness. How could there be such selfish people in the world? It was not easy to wait for a kidney source, but they were not willing to take out money for treatment. If you did not have money, they would not really ask you for money. But you had money and the ability, but you did not take it out. That was not right. That was life, but they still wanted to keep the money. How cruel. The patients and nurses next to her were all persuading Chen Lihong. They said that the kidney source could not wait, and once the time passed, the kidney would lose its activity and be useless. The two older sisters and the younger brother all said that they would borrow it first. After the surgery, they would slowly return the money. Time waited for no one. Chen Lihong ran home again and borrowed money from her husband. Chen Lihong's husband still said that he would divorce her if she wanted money. Chen Lihong asked, "Can't I borrow money? It's not like I won't return it." Chen Lihong's husband smiled. If he lent it out, he wouldn't be able to get it back. This matter wasn't just about the operation. After that, there would be all kinds of miscellaneous matters. Furthermore, the money that he had taken out would be gone, and the others would not remember to return it. He would treat it as a good thing. He would suffer a loss to fulfill everyone's wishes. Chen Lihong's husband said, "You have to understand that this is my money. I can't take it out just because someone said a few words. It's not that I don't care about my father-in-law. It's not a problem to fork out more money. Other people can fork out 10 or 20,000, but I have to fork out a few 100,000. Our family has been buying houses and cars all these years. Do you think that if we fork out a few 100,000, our shop won't continue operating?" Chen Lihong ran from both ends and ended up with bumps all over her face. The people around her were still saying that she was unfilial and looked at her as if she was a sinner. If the operation was not successful, she would become the executioner who killed her father. The whole family hated her. Madame Chen personally went to find her son-in-law. Her son-in-law still said that if they divorced, the money would be in place. If not, it wouldn't matter if he had a few thousand more than the other daughters. But if it was a few 100,000, sorry, she couldn't fork out. Madame Chen scolded her son-in-law for being greedy. If he could fork out the money for the divorce, why couldn't he fork out the money for the divorce? Madame Chen clenched her teeth and told her daughter to divorce. Chen Lihong was stunned. She didn't agree to the divorce. If she divorced, she wouldn't have a husband and son. Her husband would become someone else's, and even the children would have to call someone else mother. Moreover, once that woman came over, she would be able to live a good life. Then all the suffering she had suffered before would be in vain. Madame Chen immediately spat on her daughter's face. "Your father is waiting for money to save his life, but you only think about yourself. At this time, you have to suffer a little. How can that compare to a life?" If she divorced her son-in-law, she could still remarry. Moreover, her son-in-law's conditions were quite good. Even after the operation, there would still be money left. Chen Lihong was speechless from her mother's rebuke. Without her father, she wouldn't have existed. She had to repay him for raising her. Everyone around tried to persuade Chen Lihong. Nothing was more important than saving a life. Saving a life was better than building a 7-story pagoda. Chen Lihong was most annoyed by the fact that she was unfilial when she was asked to do things. She was harsher than her brothers and sisters who didn't fork out much money. It was probably because they had high expectations of her, but she didn't live up to their expectations. Hence, they were resentful and blamed her for everything. The operation was approaching day by day. Moreover, who knew when the kidney would arrive and the operation would start immediately? However, Chen Lihong was struggling and didn't want to divorce her husband. On the other hand, her father's operation was getting more and more stressful. On the other hand, her husband was very calm. It all depended on Chen Lihong's attitude. If they wanted to divorce, it depended on Chen Lihong. If they didn't want a divorce, it also depended on Chen Lihong. On the other hand, Madame Chen urged her daughter to divorce quickly and get the operation fees. She even urged her son-in-law to divorce her daughter quickly. This son-in-law was a selfish person. He only thought about money and didn't care about other people at all. This was a matter of life and death. Chen Lihong faced a lot of pressure. Some patients and family members who were watching the show came to persuade Chen Lihong. Divorce wouldn't kill you. Just wait here for help. Only with help would there be a future. The pain of wanting to provide for a child but not having the parents around could be solved by spending some money. She wouldn't regret it in the future. Her brothers and sisters were still urging her. Sister, Dad is waiting for the operation. Brother-in-law, oh brother-in-law, he's not a good person. He can't go through thick and thin with others. Just leave this kind of person. Only family members can be relied on. In the future, when you're lying in bed, they might treat you the same way. Things became very strange. It was as if Chen Lihong should fork out so much money for no reason. The rest of the money should be filled by Chen Lihong, even if it meant sacrificing her own marriage. She had to suffer a little. It had completely become Chen Lihong's responsibility. They were both children. How could they be so righteous when they were willing to fork out so little money? Her father's life was now on her shoulders. Forces from all around were nagging in her ears. The hospital was also urging her to do the operation. Make a decision. Chen Lihong was visibly haggard. She explained that she didn't want a divorce. However, the Chen family said that Chen Lihong was selfish and only thought of herself. She was still waiting for help. Chen Lihong went to look for her husband again. She asked her husband not to divorce her on account of their many years of relationship. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.